YouTube, it's Brian Phillips, excited to bring you something new and special. It looks familiar, doesn't it? FW190, this time by Dynam. Excited to see this thing fly. This went together, it was our best build yet, and we're gonna lay it down and take off right now. We're flying with the Dynam 6C, which so far has been pretty good. We do have stabilization, auto leveling on this. We're gonna see how this goes. Throttle cuts off. You good, camera crew?
Yep.
Oh yeah. That's 50% throttle there. Gear coming up. Oh, beautiful. You good there? Mm-hmm. A little bit too much stabilization on the roll axis. Way too much stabilization. We're gonna get that fixed right away. Camera crew, I need you 5 steps forward. Stop and left. 3 steps. Perfect, right there. Okay, the gear coming down. Camera crew is in perfect position. Gonna fly under the sun. Pretty good amount of wind here. Keeping in the throttle. You guys can see the shadow on the snow. Watching out for the trees. Okay, here we go. Whoa, 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 whoa. Did you see that?
That was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, but it was a lot of wind, I think. Very good yaw authority, very good roll authority, very good elevator authority. In fact, maybe just a little bit too much. As you can see, we've got too much stabilization. We're gonna change those gains. We could change them in flight, but a little bit hard to do that without having a second set of free hands. Okay. Guys, the reason it's flying wonky is because of the stabilizer is a little bit too much. So why don't we try, just for grins and giggles, let's see what happens when we turn it off. Okay, there's the stabilizer is off now. A couple mistakes high. Getting into the throttle, about 75%. Good roll rate. Going into the elevator, it's got a lot of elevator on that thing. Notice the gear are down. She's flying pretty good. She looks great up in the sky. I hope we're picking anything up. Whoa. Okay, stabilizer's back on. We just got quite a bit of, I think it's just the wind. Camera crew 10 steps back. Thank you. Good job, right there. We're just gonna bring it in. It's just the wind is shifting right at that spot. We got the sweet spot there. Okay, we'll just get it down, get it down. Good job, me. Okay, throttle cuts on. So we're gonna jump into the gains. So how do you do that, Brian? Enter. Where is that? Mode, system set. Calibration, mode 2.
No, I think it's the model parameters in the next back menu.
Model set. Trainer set, fail safe, timer set, reset not active, model, no. Function set. Yep, it's under function set, guys. Mode is SP. Nope.
No.
Model set, channel monitor. Nope. Model parameter.
Yeah.
Okay, mix set, throttle hold, curve, stick curve, sub trim, endpoint, reverse, auto stable set. I think I was on it already. Yaw gain, let's just turn it down a little bit. Okay. Okay, good. Let's go to the pitch gain. That's actually feeling pretty good, but I'm still turning it down just a hair. Okay. And then the roll gain, we got to go way down on that. Probably like 30. And then we'll just put this to like 40. Okay. And we already have all the reverses set right. We'll do that in the build video. We did the build and unbox build and radio setup just like we always do. It's going to follow the flight. So hopefully we have some great flights for you. If you're curious about this plane, definitely check in the link description below. This has been the best Dynam that we've built so far. In terms of going together, it is the by far easiest. It is one of the most beautiful and it's very light on its feet. It is quite windy today. Full disclosure, it is actually kind of a lot windy. It's a lot windier than I thought it was, but it's also beautiful out, given we've been dealing with Arctic temperatures the last few weeks. All right, so let's hope this works better. Camera crew, are you good to go?
Yeah, I'm fine.
She gets off the ground pretty quick too. Oh yeah, look at that. Gear going up. Checking for manned aircraft, hun. We're good. It's 2,000 feet behind us. You guys probably can't hear it on the lav mics, but we had a manned aircraft. Had to check. Way, way, way better. No stabilization woes. Full throttle into the wind. A little bit of trim needed on the elevator. There we go. Yeah, she's responding much better now. Way better. Oh yeah, nice. There's our stabilizer kicking in. We're still a little bit too high on the ailerons, but it looks a lot better, folks. Okay, here we go. Right down the runway. See, a little bit too much stabilizer on the elevator too there. Let's hope the landing gear come down this time. You see that one sticking down a little bit?
Oh, I can't.
I do. Okay, between us and the building, you good?
Yeah, I can see it now.
We'll try cycling them now. And it'll be a big surprise when it comes around. Okay.
Nope.
Dynam, you have a special way. Okay, just trying to shake them free here. Yes, I am actually trying to shake the gear free. That is not an exaggeration. Come on, you can do it, gear. I know you want to. Remember, you got to cycle them once in a while if you're trying to do this. Okay, so gear down. I'm going to shut off my stabilizer. Then I can roll it crazily. Let's see how auto leveling does. Not very good. Okay, we're out of that. You think it's going to land on one main?
Or do you try and belly land it somewhere?
I don't know. Let's try a pass here.
That does not look promising.
Guys, this plane is so cool. It really irritates me when we have these problems. Full throttle, by the way. Evidently the transmitter is trying to communicate something to me. Probably my 5-minute timer is up, but yet this Spectrum 4 cell 30C Gen 2 Smart Pack is just gloriously blowing through. Absolutely no problems. Love the shadow up against the trees, guys. This thing is just flying great. Really bummed about the almost certain death coming. I'm just gonna fly it until it doesn't want to fly anymore. No flaps, guys, and haven't had a problem. One silhouetted beautiful pass here coming for you guys. Inside, you good? Boy, that thing is gorgeous, isn't it?
Now they're both wonky looking.
Gear? She likes flying at 100% throttle, that's for sure. Okay, camera crew, I think we're gonna try it. I just have a sneaky suspicion it's gonna break the prop no matter what we do. So let's just do a couple touch and goes, guys. This is where you really rubber meets the road sort of thing, guys.
A one-wheel touch and go?
No, well, yeah, we could do a one-wheel touch and go, maybe. One-wheel touch and go, didn't knock it free either. You know, I would say that the gain needs to go down another 10%. If we can test it, that'd be really nice. I know exactly how to fix this gear when I get it on the ground. We could try snow. What do you think?
I feel like
The snow's gonna give us a better chance?
maybe.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I'm not sure. It's kind of a crapshoot. The wind is kind of coming from behind us.
Yeah.
So let's just try putting it down.
Okay.
Watch out. Hey, hey, she lives to see another day. Throttle cuts on.
I'll take that.
Prop didn't break. That's very good. Camera crew, one hand please here.
Yep.
Okay. Of course you would. So, can you cycle the gear for me safely?
Which switch?
No, you just point the camera. I'll get it.
Okay. Sorry.
See, it's just hard to hold the thing while you're cycling the gear on this plane. Oh, wow.
Oh.
They're both all wonky.
Both wonky now.
Okay. Yeah, I know it looks bad.
Hurts my soul.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, you could take off, you just can't close the gear. But the prop
True.
didn't damage at all, which
No.
is good. Just got a little bit of schmutz on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally a manageable amount.
Okay, but can you take off and remember to not close the gear?
Well, yeah, maybe. So I'm gonna hold this landing gear and I'm gonna hold it with my thumb and forefinger back here, pressing hard, and I'm gonna straighten that gear, okay? Now that it's straightened, not straightened. Now I'm gonna try again. I mean, if it breaks, right?
Yeah.
Getting closer. Okay, I'm gonna hold right here as like with death grip hold, and then forward and out. Yeah. Did you hear that?
I heard it that time.
Well, it's so funny because like literally everything on this plane has been just absolutely wonderful. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do, folks. We're gonna put it down right here, okay? We're gonna change the setting. We're gonna go enter, model parameter, is that where we went? Okay, roll gain. We'll put that to like 20, okay? And we'll just take off. We'll just do it. Okay, here we go. Don't close the gear. That's 50% throttle. I feel like the battery's probably a little bit annoyed with me right now, given that it's probably about 15-minute flight time right now.
13.
13? Oh, that's it?
Yep.
That's not much at all. Okay, so let's try to land it. Nope.
I'm going back.
Too much elevator. Hey, to the center for me.
Yep.
Thank you. We got to cut down the elevator. We got to cut down the, come up about 5 steps for me. Thank you. We got to cut down the elevator gain and the rudder gain a little bit. There we go. Okay. Ground handling is actually pretty good with the thing.
You can tell that one side is like way
bent? No, it's
cockeyed.
just the lid. It's just the,
No, look at it straight on.
it's pretty straight. It's just the gear door covers that you're seeing.
Okay.
Okay, so the throttle cut's on. We're gonna change one more setting. Sorry, camera crew. Okay, so we're gonna go into the model parameter, auto select, the pitch gain. We're gonna change the gain on the pitch to like 35. And then we're gonna go to the yaw gain. Maybe that's why it's rolling us a little bit. We'll just put that to like 30, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, throttle cut's on. Let's switch packs and we can check our voltages. And then we'll just leave the gear up. Because to be honest with you, I feel like this plane is really, you can see where we've got the smart pack in there. XT60 as seems to be kind of par for the course with these units. We had a really nice install. I mean, just everything just went boom, boom, boom right through. It's very light on its feet, but the I don't know if these are just the cursed retract issues from Dynam here or what. Let's plug this thing in and see what we got. 16%. So you can apply for 15 minutes? And
13 minutes.
13 minutes, and you'll use up your whole battery pack, Camera Crew. Let's slide that back in there.
Thank you.
And then we're gonna go back up because I'm actually really enjoying this plane and I wanna do more with it.
Same exact battery, right?
Same exact battery, just identical. Gen 2, 2200 milliamp 4S rather. And of course that's gonna be a Spectrum. I'm gonna show you how I do this. This goes right in there. A little bit harder to plug in. And then what I do is I take these wires and I just tuck them lengthwise like that. And then that keeps them up here for the center of gravity.
Is that front strap tight on your battery?
No, it's as tight as it needs,
oh, okay.
needs to be.
Missed it, sorry.
No, the back one, no, I didn't ever actually tighten it or loosen it.
Oh, you just
it was from before,
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so throttle cut's on and tested. So I'm gonna actually check this now and see if we can get these things to actuate again. You wanna come over here so they can see. There. Okay, so we're so close. We're so close, folks. See how close we are? So I'm just gonna squish the foam right here. Oh, it timed out. Come on. So what's happening is it's hitting this foam right here, folks. Right there. And so if you have tight tolerances on all these things, but you don't have super strong, robust landing gear, as soon as you get one screwed up, they don't want to go in and they don't want to come back out. So really what needs to happen is I need to, again, support this and then pull this forward a little bit. Okay, so that should get us hopefully in the hole. No, it's not. Goodness gracious. I don't think it's bent that much. Look at it.
I know.
It just feels like it's basically where it should be. Unless it's bent down the shaft somewhere, like here. Ugh, I hate doing that stuff to these planes, but sometimes you got to do it. See? All right, we're gonna pause it and come right back. Okay, so we got it back in and we basically put it on the plane stand. Throttle cut is on and tested, just so you guys know. And you can see we can get them to go in there okay. But what's happening is I just feel like maybe the tolerance is just too tight. So either the wheels need to get smaller or these openings need to get bigger. Now, I hate to do this because I feel like I'm hacking up a brand new, perfectly good plane, but that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're just gonna open this thing up and just hope for the success that we should have had in the first place, okay? Because to be honest with you, this plane is worthwhile. It is worth having a good experience with, and it's so, so capable, okay? So you'll see what I did. I just cut, and I'm just gonna rip that out like a giant onion ring, okay? And it's gonna look bad because the paint isn't gonna be there, but it's gonna be acceptable. It's you know, we're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for function. Okay, now let's test. Okay, so we gotta go deeper. So I'm gonna go one more cut deeper. Now, eventually you're gonna get into where all the other electronics are and stuff, so you gotta be a little bit careful on the second cut, okay? You can see what I'm doing. I'm just making this surgical grade cut.
Glad you're not my surgeon.
Yeah, no kidding. And then once that surgical grade cut is done, then there's a couple of different ways you can do this that work okay. This is one. You can get in there with a screwdriver or something that's stronger than your scalpel, and then you can work out this little chunk. Now this is just a test, and yes, I am kind of doing this quickly. You'll see now we're down to the fuse, or not, that is the fuse there, I think. Let's try again. Whoops. See, we just got more tolerance now there, folks. Show the people. See? We just need more tolerance because these gear are not going to hold up unless you have absolutely perfect landings. Now the other thing is, I'm just going to show you this again. When you're doing this, you have your fingers, like 2 or 3 of them down here, and you're holding the back side of that mount, and then you can actually bend this just a little bit. See? And we're not quite right yet. We're still a little bit off, so I'm going to like hold that with like all my might, and then you can use this to lever out. Okay? Now watch this. See how close we are? We're hitting somewhere.
It's still hitting in that
In that back?
Yeah.
Okay, so that needs to come forward yet a little bit more. Okay? So the correct way is you undo these 4 screws and then a cover comes off. Then you undo 4 more screws and then you can get in here and release this and you'll pull this whole shaft out of the retract. And then you replace the retract. Sorry, that was the end of the story. That's why I'm just adjusting this, because I don't want to replace the retract. Okay? And see, we're still hitting it. Where are we hitting? I need to be on that spot. I'm sorry. We were hitting right here.
Yeah, it's still hitting in that pocket.
So we just got to go a little bit bigger. And yes, this is one way to skin the cat. There are more than one way to skin cats, as we've been told. Okay?
Our cats are all still fine, by the way.
Not hitting there, not hitting there. It might be hitting right here. Might be hitting right here. Okay? And yes, I know some of you are at home cringing. Don't worry, I'm also with you cringing at my home. See, I want that to drop all the way down. See, and then if you love this plane, then at the end of all this screwing around, then you can turn around and go in here and paint this stuff and make it just really, really, really look good. But for the moment, you gotta make the thing function. If it doesn't function, then who cares how it looks? What are we even hitting though? Okay, now we got to go a little bit in here. This might be a good spot for a hot blade that's bent. I've done that in the past, and that works pretty good actually. The hot blade will get in there and melt this spot here, because that's the next spot where we seem to be hitting a lot. Now remember, you eventually will get to the point where you're low enough that you're down into the fuse, like where all your electronics are mounted. So you got to be careful you don't cut through and then hit one of the wires, okay? Okay, I know I'm hitting now. I'm hitting here. So I'm just going to go a little bit further. And hopefully this a little bit further is all the more that we need. Okay, now we try. Whoops. We're getting so close, guys. Now this will bring 2 functions. This is going to obviously allow it to work, but it's going to give us a little bit more tolerance for less than absolutely perfect landings, because these things will bend a little bit on rough landings. And you'll see how well that moves. That's not necessarily a good thing, right? But it is what it is. You got to work around it. So if you have loose tolerances here, you're going to have a pretty loose tolerance on the opening up there. It's much less pretty, but if that gets us flying, then I'm fine with it. And then this little guard, as much as it is beautiful, and it really is pretty, I need to come down here and open this up. So I'm just going to follow down this contour here, just like that. I'm just going to go at an angle, and this is regrettably going to be seen pretty easy, which sucks, but what are you going to do? Paint it. That's what you're going to do. This is going to allow that cover to come down. Or you can just take the covers off if you want. There's a million different ways to skin this cat, folks. I'm not trying to say this is the only way. And it's so funny because this plane went together like so good.
Of course.
Okay, now one more cover point has to be adjusted right here. And then we're just gonna go in here. By the way, if you're not using sharp X-Acto knives, please start doing it. You'll save yourself lots of fingertips. And look how nice that looks. Now let's go out and fly it and watch how long it lasts. without further ado, we're not going to change the battery because the battery is going to last just fine, and we'll be right back on the runway. All right, so we're going to taxi some because the taxiing on this plane is actually quite good. It's lined up really nice with the rudder. Oh, that's so cool, tracking through the water like that. Sorry, camera crew. Oh, gotta get the sunglasses on. Man, that thing looks just absolutely gorgeous. This thing is making all sorts of weird noises at me, probably trying to warn me that I should be not still flying because of my timer. Look at that sharp turn, guys.
That's good.
Nice LEDs too. Okay, here we go, into the throttle. Oh man. I had to do that forced roll because of the, there goes the gear. Oh, that looks so cool, and yet it didn't even go all the way up. Okay, gear coming back out, hopefully, let's hope. Nope. So annoying. About 50% throttle here, guys. There goes the gear going up. That is really pretty, folks. A little bit too much stabilization even still. Come up here and do a stall turn. Very good yaw authority. I like the rudder. Going under the power lines for a crazy pass here, right over the water meter. Okay, so going up. Cycling the gear out of, yep, I opened them. Do you know what I did there, folks? I stopped throwing a bunch of thrust on the landing gear, and guess what happened? They came out. So I went up there, did a 0G maneuver, and let the gear come out. Let's try to touch down and see what's going on. That sun is really helping us fly good, isn't it?
It isn't.
Who needs to see the plane to fly, right? Funny thing is, the ground handling is really good.
Yeah,
I mean, like, amazingly good.
Yeah.
Okay? So, throttle cuts on and tested, folks. I'm really bummed about the gear because this plane is really good and I want it to continue being really good. I just don't understand exactly how to get them to actuate properly. Let's see if we can try this again. I think what's happening is once we get up in the air, see, that one will push out, but this one is too far forward, so it just keeps wanting to bind in all sorts of different areas. And so notwithstanding the fact that we took out a bunch of material, it's still wanting to catch somewhere. That one comes out because once you get a little air pressure on it, it pushes it back. All right, well, in true RC fashion, now that we've established there's a problem, let's go ahead and fly. Here we go. Oh, gorgeous takeoff. Even with the gear down, it looks great. Guys, I gotta say, this thing is flying really good. Like, really good. A little bit of oscillation there. Let's fix that. See that bird chasing it?
Yeah.
That bird's like, get out of my territory. This is my territory. You wanna bet? You wanna bet, bird? Okay, here we go. Okay, just coming down the runway. Who needs to see to fly again? That's just for lamos. Nice 3-wheel landing. A little bit of rudder, throttle cuts on. Okay, so let's change this setup. Okay, press enter, model parameter. Unable to connect. We gotta be closer, I guess. Unable to connect? Why? There we go, it connected that time. Okay, yaw gain. Let's exit, let's go back to model parameter. There we go. Pitch, offset, yaw gain. So I want to change the roll gain I wonder if that one just needs to go down more too. So 30, and then we'll do 15. I have no idea what I'm doing on those. I just know they're bigger numbers or smaller numbers. So that's the way you learn, folks. You cut the hole bigger until it doesn't work. That's the way you learn. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Throttle cuts off. %, 60% throttle there. I'm feeling a little bit more kicked around. We're going to need to migrate back to where we were, please.
Okay.
It does fine. It's got all the aerobatic capability that you would want it to have, and probably a lot more than scale. Here go the gear, maybe. Oh yeah, yeah, just in Dynam fashion. You know, it's like simulated war games here. Gear coming down. Hey, they're coming down at least. That's good.
We're
trying to figure out what?
We're less than 5 on battery on your phone, so I can't see
Fun.
anything. So,
Oh, that's
sorry,
always
guys.
handy. Here we go. Fast pass ready? Go.
Sure. Got it.
Good
No
job.
idea.
Well, guys, I wanted this thing to be just a stellar performance, and to be honest with you, it's about as good as we've seen from Dynam here. So let's just bring it in for a nice landing. Let's see if we can get an awesome landing here. By the way, it is not calm. So just keep that in mind when you're critiquing my performance and Dynam's performance. Wheels up. Woo! We're gonna try that again. Oh, sorry, folks. You know what would make this so much better?
Seeing?
Seeing is helpful. But no, what would make this better would be if those gear would just not have screwed up, because, like, honestly, how close was this one? It's like gotta be almost perfection.
It was so close.
See, it's got enough power to get you out of trouble, though. I'm really depending a lot on that yaw control. Really getting a nasty crosswind all of a sudden, of course, when I'm trying to finish off the flight. Out of the throttle. That is horrible. Throttle cuts on. What do you think, camera crew?
I think we're out of battery.
You do?
I don't think it's...
You don't think it's optional?
I don't think it's optional.
Really?
No.
You think it's dead?
I know you're going to take off again. Oh! I literally can't see anything.
Hey, you realize we're on the run. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. We're gonna try this again. This is the FW 190 Focke Wulf by Dynam. We've been trying all afternoon to get it just dialed in for the landing gear. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna give you guys hopefully one last flight, and then we'll go inside and show you the changes we made. You'll notice a little bit bouncy on the mains. That's because I had to trim the wheels. Okay, here we go. Stabilization is on. Working great. Look at that glorious takeoff. 2200 4S Smart Pack here. Gear going up. Sort of. Gear going down. Gear going up. Man, that thing does look really good right now. Up over the power lines, just barely. Inside, you good? Okay, here we go. Oh, it's so pretty. Guys, this plane flies really nice, but the retracts have been kind of a burdensome issue. Look how nice that looks, guys. That's about 25% roll rate. Here's the full roll rate with stabilization on, so it's pretty good roll rate. It's windy, just in case that weren't already blatantly obvious. Now, this plane doesn't come stock with flaps. Well, technically it does, but you have to install them, meaning you have to go out of your way to put in a servo. And the receiver we used does have integral stabilization. This, of course, is the Gavin 6C, which is a Detram product. Detrum, I don't even know what way you say it. But we've been fighting that landing gear all day, but we got it to the point now where they come out each time you need them out. So let's try an approach, a little different approach. The wind has calmed down a little bit, so we'll try going over by the eagle killing zone, the F-15 eagle, just to be clear, totally clear. Not a real eagle. Okay, we're gonna go back. Gear going up. So far, been very, very happy with the build on this plane. It went together easier than any other Dynam we've ever built. Who needs to see when you're landing, right?
Nah, it's overrated.
About 30%, 50% throttle, bringing it in a little bit of yaw. Whoa. We'll just take that around. The stabilizer's been working good. We had to draw them way down. What a beautiful plane, though. Trying to get up over the top of the de Havilland ME-262 on the mains. And there we go, guys. There is a reason you pay for the $500 Horizon one. If you want one that comes out of the box being amazing and having no problems, get that one. Granted, you're talking about in the air, $645, I think is the way we flew it. This plane is less than half of that with the Smart Pack. And that does not mean that this is the right move. It just means that it is more budget friendly. And it is still absolutely gorgeous. And look at the tight spot you can fly this thing in. 50% throttle, really riding the rudder, riding the elevator, trying to get it in that tight turning radius. Small planes fly closer. That is one big advantage. That being said, this thing is just about as equally hard to land as the 1.5 meter. Whoa, whoa, buddy! That is the third time we've done that. Every time we do that, that is definitely a pilot error. But at the same time, it grinds down the prop, and so it makes it out of balance. Guys, this plane is just, it is so pretty. I just wish the stinking gear worked better. It reminds me of the old days with Dynam, except that it was so easy to build. It was huge. Guys, look at that beautiful, beautiful plane. Why can't you just work landing gear? And by the way, we've got a flashing anti-crash beacon on the bottom. We've got a red on the right wing nav light, really beautiful. And then of course we've got the green on the left. So we have scale looking nav lights, not very bright. Well, that gear is not cycled all the way, is it now?
Doesn't look like it.
See if we can get, oh, there it goes.
There it goes.
Just absolutely gorgeous. Don't really need the flaps on this plane. It lands okay for you. That's 100% throttle. With the gear down, you're gonna have a little extra drag, just FYI. If you're looking for a way to get into the flying game cheap, Dynam helps with that. The problem is you just gotta really understand kind of what you're doing, or you're going to end up disappointed. And honestly, if you know what you're doing, you might end up disappointed. The reason I say these things is not to diminish the fact that that is one beautiful plane, but by the time you get it doing what you want, you know, you may not be happy anymore. And that being said, just look at that gorgeous beauty. Look at that gorgeous beauty there, guys. It'll do all the aerobatic tricks you want to do. And it is not calm. Keep in mind, we got a pretty good amount of wind here. That is my Gavin transmitter talking to me saying, Brian, why are you still flying? You set a 5-minute timer 25 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago. It's okay. Got this, Gavin. Look at that. Wonder why those gear are worn out. I think they spun. Throttle cuts on. Guys, look how gorgeous this thing is though, really. Seriously. It is an absolutely gorgeous plane. Just don't look too close at the gear. Don't look too close, guys. I had to do some significant modification. Throttle cut is tested, by the way. I had to shorten the wheels. If you want this thing to fly good, here's the number one thing you're gonna do. You're gonna take those 60mm diameter wheels and you're gonna take them off and you're gonna make them smaller, or you're gonna get something smaller. And that will solve most of the landing gear retracts. But look at the retract there. Back in the olden days, we used to have all sorts of problems with retracts from Dynam because of temperature. That being said, I don't think this is temperature. I think it's fit, which is so funny because this plane fit together better than any Dynam that we have done to date, including the Turbojet 550, my first experience with Dynam, and that was like 5.5 years ago. So, all things considered, this is probably still a buy, okay? Check the link in the description below. Guys, we want to show you the no BS review process. We want you to see the good and the bad. I had somebody just the other day saying that I was sugarcoating a review of the Crescendo Evolution. No, I didn't, guys. That plane is awesome still, and yes, I have had my fair share of gripes with it. But that being said, this plane is good, it's really good, and then it's not good. And that's not uncommon. You're gonna have that with some of these, you know, especially the economy planes. You're gonna have that. So we try to show it. We want you to see the way it's really gonna be. And then you don't have to get upset with Dynam. You just kind of get it, and you're like, okay, well, the servo is gonna be too small, or there's a possibility we're gonna have trouble with the retracts, or whatever it is. Or maybe the decals aren't good enough, or whatever. I mean, you guys make up your own mind. I can just tell you, our real experience is what you're gonna see in this video. Our build went super smooth, you'll be amazed. So stick around, watch the unbox, build, radio setup. We set this up, this is a plug-and fly. And as far as I can tell, the stabilization's working pretty good. It's got similar to the forward programming on the Spectrum side of things, and so you can change your gains and things like that from the transmitter. And basically the long and short of it is, this is a really good plane. But if you're gonna rush it, you may be a little bit dissatisfied, especially when it comes to the landing gear. Do not even think about flying from grass with this thing. You won't ever get it to land once without bending the gear. If you're flying from a very smooth strip, and by the way, this is concrete, and you're landing on a very calm day, even perfect landings will bend these gear. So you need to be prepared to either open up the holes, or you need to be prepared. And by the way, I didn't paint them or anything. I just used a green marker and then wiped it around. We'll actually take you inside and show you what I did real quick. But the practical reality is, if it weren't for that, this plane would be an A++. It'd be a big time go buy it. Because you're talking half the price of the Horizon offering, and yet it's smaller, it's, you know, it's a lot cheaper. It's very light on its feet. This is a light plane. And with this transmitter setup, it actually worked out pretty good. I was very surprised. Big drawback, no flaps. Doesn't need them, but the flaps are always part of what I look for in a plane. So without further ado, I'm getting cold. We're going in, we're gonna show you what I did inside. Okay guys, so we're just gonna set this down. We're just gonna set it down on the plane stand again. We've been kind of feverishly trying to get our batteries figured out. You'll notice I did this kind of ugly green. That came from, after trimming out, I just basically take this and I'll run it along inside of there. And it just kind of covers up the bright white. Then when you're all said and done, you can actually take a paper towel and you can wipe that, and it'll help spread that around. It works sometimes all right, sometimes it doesn't work so great. But the idea is I don't want to spend a lot of time painting it yet. I just wanted to try to get it good. And you can see how I gouged up these tires trying to shorten them. Believe it or not, that actually did make a pretty big improvement. But look at these gear door. Look at this. See that?
Yeah.
It's just the stuff you get. Look at the wear and tear on that already. So let's close them for you. See how much more flexibility you got there?
But they still...
Whoops, sorry. But they still will bind, and watch how easy they bind, okay? This is barely anything, okay? Oop. This one in particular has been really bindy, and of course now I can't duplicate it. See the gear door? So that's one thing, you can manipulate these this way, okay? And then secondarily, see, this one's bound now. See that? Mm-hmm. And what'll happen is once you bind on the way down, it won't come back out. And it's like, it worked 20 times. And I've also taken out, look how much foam I've taken out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty good amount of foam. That being said, you also weaken the wing. So look at this. You see how that's mounted?
Yeah.
So I think what would have to happen is you'd have to probably put some sort of a shim in here. And then of course the smaller wheels will make a big improvement in terms of the clearances, because the primary clearance issue you have is up here, and you just only have so much material you can take out. Mm-hmm. Also, these guns, however cool they make it hard to hold the plane, okay? Because when you go in to pick it up, there's just nowhere to get your hand in there. And that's the inboard front edge of the wing is usually where you want to pick up the planes from, because it's the strongest spot. You can grab in there and get the wing spar. And so I don't know. This thing went together so good. And you see that? See, that's the sort of thing that we've run into now. So we have a 95% plane, and yet it's still a good plane, because this really is a good plane. And I'll be honest with you, if I was in the market for this plane and I was just not wanting to spend Horizon money on the big one, but or if I wanted the smaller one, but I really like the way this one looked, because it is gorgeous, then you might be in the market for just replacing the retracts with something heavier duty. Mm-hmm. If you went heavier duty, you could probably get away with the stock retract bogies, because I don't think that's the problem. I think it's the retract, because that is a plastic retract.
Is it just a fluke on the retract on those? I don't know.
No, it's not a lemon. It's a design issue.
Okay.
It is definitely a design issue, because look at this. See this? This is plastic, okay? What happens is when this actuates, I think that the plastic binds itself. Oh. I think that's actually where your problem is. Most of your heavier duty retracts, this is going to be metal. Mm-hmm. And then this might be plastic out here. This might be this polymer or whatever it is. But then underneath that thing that's actually metal. Mm. And so what happens is you have more resilience to this all getting out of true. Once it gets out of true, then you bind, right, like this. Now, some of that in a dynamic setting where you're moving and there's air turbulating around it and things like this and pushing against it, they'll break free. But other times they'll bind when they would have been clear coming out on the table or whatever, on the kitchen table or wherever you're starting up. So we wanted so badly for this one to be good, because it just went together so good, and it is really, really gorgeous. And I love the lights. They're super easy to work with. We did have a label backward on our LED module today, but that was easy. We go through that. It's a really easy fix, because we wired it according to what it was labeled, and then we realized it was backward. So also the 2200 4S Smart Pack is just really been phenomenal so far on this one. And I also noticed the battery tray. See the battery tray? That battery tray is lifting, okay? See that? So that's always unfortunate. So I'm going to have to re-glue that. Looks like maybe just not quite enough glue. So we'll actually lay that down. If you guys stick around, you can watch our build. There's nothing more that I want than to give a very positive review of every plane we fly. And, some of you guys probably don't believe me on that, but that's okay. You don't have to believe me. That's true. Because obviously it behooves us to give you guys a good review, and you'll come back and watch more and possibly buy from the links below and all that good stuff, which you can do.
Well, you genuinely want to like every plane because you like that. Like, you want to
Because
fly.
I love every
you
plane.
Like to fly.
I wouldn't do them if I didn't like them.
Yeah.
So, okay, so here's this. So you can see these high points here and here and here and then here. Okay, you can see, but not in the middle because that's a gap. And you definitely don't want to glue on the straps, okay? So what we're gonna do is we'll use China glue for this because it's very tacky and it might work well. You could use hot glue on this also. Might be a little easier to control so you can avoid getting on the straps. This is like gone. I'm just gonna eliminate that from the equation. So the China glue, we did not use very much glue on this plane either. All the screws lined up. I mean, I was like waiting for disaster and it just never happened. We just had a genuinely good time building it. It was very easy. It went together super, super well. And we didn't have any complications that came up because of poor fitment until it came to the retracts. And that was the only place where we ran into problems. I'm gonna go ahead and just smear a little bit on here. You guys are probably wondering, why are you telling me all this stuff? Well, because we want you to know what we ran into. And then for those of you that decide to purchase this plane, then you'll know exactly what you're getting into. Because that's, after all, why you watch a review. In my experience, you might be watching it for the unboxing, just so you can kind of see how things come, if they come in one piece or if they're gonna come broken. That's kind of a tough thing too, because you know, your deliverer could cause more problems than Dynam packaging, you know. The person that's actually delivering your packages might be a bigger problem than UPS, FedEx, DHL, Hong Kong Express, whatever you guys are using to get your packages where they go. Okay, so now, ideally, you'll be able to let this sit. And once it's done sitting for a minute or two, then you can go ahead and apply it. But the key is you want to keep those straps from getting any to a very, very, very small amount. A very small amount is not going to be a big deal. You also notice where we put this receiver. That turned out very good, so definitely watch how we did that. And we only have one big bundle of wires, so it's super easy. We had a very good time putting this thing together, and we used the 560 Canopy glue. Had really good luck. Beautiful canopy, beautiful decals. I mean, this plane just really did come together wonderfully. The other thing too is, and this is just a thought, if you want this plane and you love this plane, then you could also do it and just never actuate the gear. Which would be highly lame because it looks really good with the gear up. But at the same time, if you're not gonna, and I'm talking perfect landings on perfect ground without any crosswind, you will have the same problem we did.
Every single time.
I don't know about every time,
No,
but
you'd
yes.
have to land perfectly every time.
Yeah, that is true. Yep, that's true. Yep. And okay, so let's try to slide this in here. We just want to be totally upfront with you guys. We got nothing to hide. We want you to know that when you come to Brian Phillips RC, you're going to get an honest review. You're going to know what we ran into. And some of it is because of me as a pilot. You know, some of it is because of my impatience. Some of it is because of my wife, her nasty glares at me that are off camera. Usually not. So you see this? So that's in there. Now we can just let that sit. That contact adhesive is already working. And we're just going to leave this alone. We're going to put it into the Hall of Fame or Shame, whichever you have it. But I can highly recommend, if you don't mind a project plane, that's kind of the status quo for Dynam, then this plane is definitely for you. And it is still, I would say, even after the landing gear woes, it's still probably one of the best. Now that being said, because the landing gear woes will continue into perpetuity, it's probably not the best Dynam. The Pitts so far has been very good. And it isn't a Pitts, is it? It's a PT-17. PT-17.
Oh.
Yeah, the Pitts is a different brand. So yeah, we were talking earlier and we might have misspoke and said the Pitts, but we meant the PT-17. The PT-17 has been near flawless, except for the wheels, which are pretty hard, and so it's very hard to get a two-wheel landing as opposed to a three-wheel landing. This thing, I don't know if you guys could tell, but going down on the mains was just beautiful. Problem is, you know you're screwing it up when you do it.
Yeah.
So that comes back to an engineering issue, and they got so many things right on this. So swing and a miss? No. This was a swing and a foul ball. So if you want,
Like a base hit.
it was a base hit. It was a base hit. First base, second base.
Well, that's a little
Third base?
personal. Maybe that's for later.
Third base. All right, come back for more, guys. Stick around for the rest of the full unbox build radio setup. I'm sure you guys are gonna get something out of it. If you end up buying this plane, definitely watch through it. And it went pretty smooth, so you can jump around pretty easy and kind of see what we're doing. Also, just adding things like this. It's a good plane. It's a good plane. It's just got bad retracts. And, you know, what do you do? All right, YouTube, we're here for the unboxing. You've already seen it fly, the Focke Wulf FW190. We're hoping for the best. We're gonna be using this Gavin receiver. It's a 6C, so you guys will have the side-by-side comparison between this and another reputable brand that we've reviewed recently. We're hoping that this goes just as smooth as the other. Hoping. Okay, so what have we learned about Dynam? Lots about Dynam we've learned. They are sometimes more challenging to put together. As I've said in the past, they tend to be more on the project plane side, but they're a lot cheaper. The receivers are a lot more inexpensive, but ooh, wow, look at that. We've got the Swastika all on the wing. Look at that, fancy dance. So basically, here goes nothing, guys. Let's see what this thing looks like. What size is this? 1270 millimeters, 50 inches. I like the way it looks. The pilot head is gigantic, so hopefully if we have an opportunity to just leave the pilot head out. This one shows the transmitter, but I'm assuming this one is just a plug-and fly.
I see the side where it has like the check boxes yet.
It's on that side. ARP are ready to fly, so I don't know. Huh. I guess we'll find out here in a second. So we'll see how this goes. All right. It's got a 3-bladed prop on it. Looks like this is a really nice box actually for Dynam.
Yeah,
so.
it's like a newer style.
It's a newer style of box, which is probably a good thing because
hopefully
maybe that means that they've addressed some of our concerns that we've had in the past. This does have retracts and flaps as far as I understand, but I'm not 100% sure about the flaps yet, so we'll see here in a minute. Okay, so it looks like a typical Dynam packaging. This is the transmitter we're gonna do. We'll go over that next. That's a Gavin 6C, which is gonna be a 6-channel transmitter receiver combo, and we're gonna have the stabilization and auto leveling available if we decide to use it. But being that it's only 6-channel, if we have flaps, then we won't be able to use the control to turn it on and off. So it'll just end up being stabilization. I've been finding that with these Dynams, it's nice if you can keep this big piece of cardboard because it gives you a place to glue things together because you will generally need to glue. And you can immediately tell that's true. Fit and finish on this model so far, surprisingly way better than I'm expecting. Like these joints are tight. That's surprising. Okay, I'm pleasantly surprised so far. I still have the crappy clevises over here, the kind that break really easy on you. These fingers will break on you. You got to be real careful. See them?
Yep.
The little heads break off, so you got to be super, super careful with those. But let's pop this out of the, pop it out of the plastic. Boy, I'm gonna be, wow. That actually looks really good. That's surprisingly good. See that, guys? You never get a tight joint like that on a Dynam. You just don't. And that looks really good. Look how nice that's trimmed. Look how nice that's trimmed.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously on the one that we reviewed the other day, there was like an EDF blade. So this thing actually spun very beautiful, but also it's quite expensive. It's an interesting outrunner. So we're gonna be screwing into this. That is extremely uncommon. This thing feels light too, which is surprising. Looks like we got a 9-gram servo and possibly a 9-gram servo as well, but it looks like that one's thicker. No, probably just in my head. So there's throttle, XT60. Screw, screw, screw. LED on the bottom. Looks like steerable tail wheel. High quality, but you can see this thing just, that's no good. I'm hoping these things are free in there. They look like there's not a bunch of glue and schmutz all over them, which is really nice. I'm actually really impressed the way this looks. And guys, I'm not usually very nice to Dynam. I'm not, because I don't give them a pass. But that being said, if you go into a Dynam knowing it's a project plane, you can kind of, you just kind of have to be ready for a little bit of that. But so far, I'm like really cautiously optimistic about the way this thing is coming out of the box. Okay, so it looks like we get the wings in here. They're horizontally opposed. One's in one way, one's in the other. Boy, that looks like way neater than we're used to seeing from Dynam. Not only, wow, see, painted?
And it matches pretty well.
Yeah, and they even have that little sort of detail like they did on the Horizon one. Now, there are flaps that can be added, but it looks like you have to install your own servo. So we're not going to be installing those. There are LEDs in the wing, which is nice. Let's see how this looks. Feels nice and sturdy, actually. Really nice looking. I like the subtle difference in colors here.
Yeah, you couldn't even see that in the bag.
Yeah, it's really pretty. There's a spot for what would be a couple of LEDs there, maybe, for like guns. They evidently took out a servo for the flap. I'm not sure though. I mean, obviously there's not a flap in there. It looks like a 9-gram plastic gear servo. Looks like nice adapters here. That's always good to see. Big control surface. Really detailed, I like that. Tons of mold release marks though. So you're gonna have a lot of that. Now, there's none on the top.
None on the top.
But there's a ton on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they might be, I always wondered about that, if that was almost gonna act like a vortex generator. It'd be a happy accident if it was. Because otherwise every manufacturer would put those like all over the whole surface of the plane. Wing joiner, very short and flexy, but it is definitely a wing joiner. I can't tell if that's fiberglass or carbon fiber. I'm assuming it's probably fiberglass. Kind of hard to tell sometimes when they're black like that. Okay, let's just pop this wing out, make sure it looks good too. Very pretty. Huh, pretty soft on the foam too. That's definitely a good thing. Feel how light that is.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually really light. I mean, that's a good sign. I want a light plane. If I can get a light plane, it'll fly good.
Right.
And that's everything that was in this big box. So we can discard that for the moment. Okay, so this must be the horizontal stabilizer. Let's see what we got here. We'll just pull this out. That was nice the way I opened that. Yep, horizontal stab, and looks like the vertical stabilizer. There is not a swastika on here by default, so that, I know some of you guys would really be not thrilled about seeing that, and then others of you would be thrilled seeing it because it's a scale plane and you want to replicate the scale performance as close as you can. I think probably given our environment, we're not going to put it on there. Personally, if it was just my plane and I was just flying it around here, I wouldn't have a big problem with it, but I'm just not going to put that on there on YouTube. So that being said, if you guys have a problem with the way we handle that, I'm sorry, I can't please everybody, so I'm just going to have to err on the safe side on that one. That being said, let's pull this stuff out. Got a prop in this box. Whoa, it's a big prop.
Wow.
Almost looks like a slow flight prop. 13.7.
That's crazy.
I actually really like the way this one looks. It's matte on the front, but then it's shiny on the back. I don't know about the whole shiny on the back thing, but
The matte on the front's cool.
looks really nice. And then there's grooves back here. Everything so far about this plane is strangely high quality, given that this is a Dynam. And I know some of you guys are thinking that I kind of beat up on Dynam, and I guess I kind of do, but some of the stuff I say is well deserved. Okay. If it turns out great, then I have no reservations about giving them a wonderful review. Oh, look, they don't even have swastikas in here. They must have figured out that wasn't a really wise maneuver. Yeah, no kidding. Huh. Okay, well that makes sense. Good. We don't have to deal with that problem. And then, of course, we got the Dynam stickers. And hey, look, the pilot.
It's the little pilot.
It's the little pilot.
I was going to say, sometimes it's
wait,
like,
hold on. Oh, I thought there was 2 layers. Okay. So let's pop this open. We always like to start on these Dynams with kind of getting the canopy glued on. I'm really kind of excited about this prop adapter. It looks really high quality. See
really
that?
big.
It is. Here, show the people. Feel how light it is.
Wow, that's
Isn't that crazy? It's aluminum, so it just weighs almost nothing.
Yeah, that's really crazy.
And if you guys are watching this unboxing and you're thinking, Brian, just get to the point, get it flying or whatever. Well, first of all, we already flew. And second of all, we have to address this once in a while. And it's a little bit frustrating for us because we try to show a lot of details. This is painted on a black plastic. We're just trying to give you guys a review of what we see and let you kind of make up your own minds. Of course, we're going to give you our opinion about it. There's your bullet guard, I'm assuming. Flak guard or whatever you'd call that. It goes behind the pilot. There is a socket for that too, by the way. But our objective here is not to really tell you, you know, like this is the plane you need or whatever. We're going to tell you that when we love them, of course. But partly what we're doing here is just trying to give you an experience or what to expect when you do buy it. So you can decide without having to order it first and then figure out that you made a bad mistake. Looks like it came with 2 tubes of glue, so that's always good. A couple other, these are probably gonna be the guns maybe for the wings. Oh, that's what those wing holes were for.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's 4 of those. There's 2 longer ones and then 2 shorter ones.
That makes sense.
Okay, so 2 tubes of glue. This is like the China glue. Of course, Dynam is really bad about sending duplicates and in 2 different bags. And I don't understand why they do that, but they do it.
It's confusing.
The other thing too is I think today we might just go ahead and just jump the gun and get some hot glue going because the hot glue seems to be by far the easiest way to get the controls glued in. You can use the China glue and it works well, provided you're not going to be flying right away. So in our case, maybe what I'll do is I'll do a little bit of China glue and then I'll do some hot glue to set it in place because we're going to try to fly this thing today. If the weather is cooperative, we finally are coming out of this nasty, nasty cold that we've had for probably, what would you say, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
And so, yes, we did film a few flights. In fact, the other FW-190 was flown on one of those days. I think it was like 4 degrees or 4 degrees below.
Yeah.
So this is gonna have an advantage in that case. Really good box though, really good box. Surprisingly good fit and finish so far. So I'm actually quite pleased and I love the guns. Look at that, that's so cool. Guys, I've been really surprised by this one because we have reviewed a handful of Dynams and they have not turned out to look quite like this. So with some level of cautious optimism, we are going to get things straightened up and come right back to the build. All right, folks, so we're gonna do the build. With Dynams, you have to install, or you get the privilege of installing, the canopy and the different decorations that go inside of it. And there's a lot of you that are thinking to yourself, I really enjoy that process. And I tend to agree with you to a degree. However, that being said, they don't include a proper canopy glue. And so I use this Formula 560. I think today we might try hot glue just to see how it goes. But there's a pilot. I actually don't hate this pilot. Also this, just again, really happy with the fit and finish on this model. And I know that you guys were with me for it. I have not been real easy with Dynam, so I'm actually super surprised to see how good this is going. The first thing I'm gonna do, of course, is make a release so I can get this battery access quite easily. Just stick it down, stick it to the other side, and then you wanna kinda almost crease it, okay? And that's gonna make it nice and easy to get pulled out. Because you see there's a sharp edge here, okay? The sharp edge is gonna get destroyed otherwise. Okay, so you get this nice little release, okay? See that? It's taped on both sides. Just gives you something to hang on to.
Do you want to show them that battery tray?
Oh yeah, there's a battery tray in here too. And then you can see nice, easy access. You can see the motor, but you can't really do much with it. So we're just gonna plop this down. I'm not 100% sure why this is still opened or if we're supposed to glue that or what exactly. If anything else, it looks like we're gonna have the front of the Falcon. I believe that's a Falcon. will probably come up and stick up at the front. If not, we'll just favor it a little bit forward, and then this black exhaust vent will continue through. So let's look at mounting the canopy. I want this off for that because then I can get to these corners nicely. Obviously, the first thing we want to do is apply any decals that we want to be installed. I love that they give us decals for the inside of the canopy. Okay, so let's see how this looks. I am like really super impressed with this plane so far. And it's for all the, wrong reasons to be impressed. Let's just be totally frank, because it's the things that I've been really disappointed with in past Dynam products. So far, I mean, cross our fingers, it looks like they're hitting all the different high points that I want to hit, okay? So we're just gonna try this, and what is that, a 5 or something on there? I can't tell if there's a correct direction or not.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
It looks like maybe it leans. I just can't tell. Yeah. Looks like that's probably good there. So we'll just stick that in there. It actually fits so hard with pressure, you probably didn't have to actually glue it at all. But in this case, I have an open bottle of China glue, so we'll just use that. One tip, if you use the little China glue that comes in these kits, just throw a date on it, and then you'll remember which one you're gonna use. Oh, and then if you haven't ever seen one of our builds, if you can spread the stuff, it's a contact adhesive, and the best thing to do, the best practice, is to spread the glue on both surfaces and then let it set for a minute and then stick it in. But like in this one, it's got such a tight fit, you're gonna wanna do it pretty much right away, and that's important. Okay, so I'm gonna glue on the bottom. Just a little bit of glue like this. And now this is quite a bit lighter than hot glue. That's one of the other big advantages to using the China glue over using, and mucilage is the China glue. It's the same thing. Mucilage is available from Hobby King, but I use this or foam, Foam to Foam, which is a Horizon product. Well, no, it's not a Horizon product, but it's marketed through Horizon Hobby. And so it just kind of depends on where you're ordering your last piece of equipment from. That's where I would get it from. My preferred choice is mucilage, but since we've been doing quite a few of these Dynams lately, now this side, I can get this all the way up on the sides now. I don't want to put it on the sides here because then that'll bulge out and look really ugly. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and rock this in. And you're like, but Brian, you didn't let it set up. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna do that on purpose this time. Okay, so we've got that. Don't know if that's right. Looks right enough for me. Okay, so then the pilot sits inside of here. Now the only problem with that is look how low the pilot is. Ooh, that looks kind of weird. Let's see how it looks with the canopy. Maybe it'll look good. Hey, you know what? That isn't so bad actually. I almost feel like it's a little low, but look compared to the elephantitis head over here.
Compared to this, it's way better.
This is better. I'm good with this.
Yeah.
I'm good with it. Let's do that.
Okay.
So option 1, China glue. Option 2, hot glue. I think on this thing is heavy enough that I'm not really worried about saving a lot of weight. So we're just gonna plop a little bit of hot glue on either side, and we're just gonna drop it in there and just hope for the best. And don't overdo it with hot glue. Hot glue is heavy. It is not your friend. Weight is not your friend on a plane unless you need nose weight to make it fly, or you need to add tail weight to make it fly. In which case, get it as far as you can so that you have the longest lever. And that means you can add the least amount of weight and still make it fly right, okay? Okay, so the hot glue is in there. You can see the hot glue kind of pooped out on that side, but you'll never know any better. Nope. Except that I just literally put it on camera. That will hold just fine. Okay, so we should be good there. So now, putting the canopy on, boy, that is the best fitting canopy we've had from a Dynam product yet. Because look at this. What did we do? The first Dynam was a yellow one. The PT-17, was it?
Yeah.
It was a PT-17? Yeah. Well, anyway, that plane went together and it was hard because of the cables.
Yes.
And we just ran into a couple of different complications. The DC-3 was horrific to put together, flew amazingly, really good plane. And then we jumped into a handful of different Dynams that we just had really, I feel like almost bad luck on. The BF-110, we had servos that were apparently undersized. And then I think we had a dead servo on the ME-262, but otherwise great plane. Just really not fun to put together for a variety of factors. Okay, so now this stuff comes out really milky. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of, you have to kind of keep moving on this. So Camera crew, I apologize for just jumping in like that, but there's not really a lot you can do about it. Okay, so you get about half of it done usually is what I try to do. And then you can rotate the plane a little bit. Oh shoot, bubble.
You're gonna get runs, so you better go quick.
That's a little personal.
Sorry.
Oh, well, the good news is about this is that it will dry totally clear.
Yep.
And it really does. Now, sometimes in the video, you guys are gonna still see some creamy white, but generally speaking, that's dry within a day or two. Oh, good lordy lord.
I said.
Well, I didn't know it was gonna happen that quick. Okay, so since we have so much extra, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back over on this side. You guys can't see it from your angle, but I have kind of a low spot, so I'm just gonna apply it right on the inside of the canopy. I don't usually do that, but just given the circumstances, I just won't want to waste the glue. This stuff works pretty good. Now you can apply it to the canopy, but I've never really found good success doing it that way. It's like a lot harder to do. And I've also had some trouble with, if you don't get a perfect bead, then you won't, the glue won't transfer and make up for the indisparities on the canopy. But like I said on this one, this has got to be the best fitting canopy we've ever gotten from a Dynam. So again, I'll take it because I want every plane that we review, I want it to be great. But, you know, and I go into it assuming that it's going to be the best plane ever, but we've been let down a number of times by a few different situations. So it's kind of hard to go in assuming the best when you've been burned multiple times in a row. That being said, project planes are project planes. You have to kind of have that in mind when you're buying them. That's part of the reason why you watch Brian Phillips YouTube, Brian Phillips RC on YouTube, is just to get an idea of what to expect. It's not like, you know, I'm reviewing 30 planes here. Oh, that was nice. Guys, don't do this stuff in your kitchen. Or if you do it in your kitchen, don't do it while your wife is watching.
Yes.
Like me. Okay, so I'm gonna dig this into the glue. And see, I just got glue on my finger. See that? This stuff is really easy to clean up though, so it should be no problem. I do. Okay, so that's stuck down nicely. I was actually seriously considering the possibility of doing this with hot glue. And I guess at this point, I'm really glad I'm not, because I think this is gonna be like one of the best Dynams we've done so far.
You have a little more time to get it cleaned up than with hot glue. If it goops, it goops.
Well, hot glue wouldn't goop though.
Well, that's true, I guess.
See the finished side over there? Mm-hmm. I will wipe it with a wet paper towel here in mere moments.
Mm-hmm. And it will dry really clear.
Ooh, I got it like all over the place over here. Oops.
Such a slob.
Yeah, I did. Hey, you know what? This is why it's nice to have a sink where you're filming. Okay, so I'm just gonna wipe off the excess until it's clean. Okay, so here we go. All right, so that looks pretty good. Doesn't see, it's wet right now, so it's a little bit shiny, but that's just from the water, it's not from the glue. This Formula 504, I don't know if I've told you guys this, but I don't even link to it, but it is like the best canopy glue that I've ever had. 560, sorry. Formula 560. And it cost all of like $5 at your local hobby shop. If you can't find it, ask me and I'll find a link for you.
And yours was opened in 2017.
2017.
And you're still using it.
October of 2017, and it's still working perfectly.
Yep.
So what more can you ask for? You know, it's really, it's a good product. I have a cracked cap and it still works fine. In fact, I'm gonna seal that right now because I can. Yes, that's right, we just sealed our cap. All right, so this is done. The canopy's installed. We're gonna let that set. And I hope that this little gap up front that I'm noticing here, see this gap here, camera crew? I'd really like to hold that down somehow, but I don't know that I'm gonna have a real great way of doing it. It feels like they painted the inside, so I could tape that down, but I just have to avoid stealing this little strip of paint. You know, if I tape it down, I'll show you a trick for that, and I've kind of elaborated on this a few times. It's not like some voodoo magic that's really complicated here. This is very simple. I'm gonna take the tape upside down on my fingers, and I'm just gonna take this tape right here and hold it like this. And then I'm just gonna stick it to this big, long, flat surface and then pull the canopy down and then stick it. And then I'm gonna take and do just a little teeny tail so I can easily get that off later, okay? So that's just gonna hold that down. And of course, the tape that's coming up is the sticky side up. So that'll prevent this section from pulling the finish off, because that would be a really bad spot to lose finish. It's gonna look bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's next? Let's, so far so good. The wings, obviously the wings have to be joined together. These Dynams, have twisty ties from like the bread that they got from the government that week. So they just reuse these, and they're golden, I guess. That was just a joke, guys. It's not true. Don't believe anything you hear on the internet. I'm gonna pull these off. So obviously there's gonna be a Y cable that goes to both the landing gear and the ailerons, and then these are LEDs, so they're gonna go straight to the controller. And it is over here, I took off the bread tie from that one, but this is the controller here. I'm not sure if those lights are gonna be, I mean, I'm assuming they're out to the wingtips, so they're gonna be solid. And then I think we need to add the guns onto the wings. Do the instruction manual mention it? Oh, they show them right here. So it looks like the long ones go on the outside, the short ones go on the inside. So that's pretty sweet. Why don't we do that real quick?
Okay.
Okay, so we got 4. 2 are short, 2 are long. Let's just assume the longer ones go here. Let's see. Okay, we'll do it dry first. Just very carefully ram it in the hole. Okay, once it's rammed in. Now, take note, there's one end that's got a cut end and one end that's got a slightly less cut end. So you can pick whichever side looks better to you. In this case, they both look about the same. So I would suggest on this, because of the ease, I would suggest using the China glue. China glue will be the easiest way to do this. So when you're using China glue on a surface that's sliding into a hole like this, you do need to glue a little bit on the end like this, and it's gonna have a tendency to wanna kind of be everywhere. So if you make it clean on the way in, it doesn't take hardly any glue to hold that thing in there. So I would go real light on that glue. I mean real light, because you just don't need much. And let's just pick the better of the 2 sides. They're about exactly the same. So I guess I'll just pick this side because I already have it in my hand that way. And then kind of the same thing, I'm just gonna take and spread this around a little bit, this contact adhesive. If you give them a super up close shot, they can kind of see what's going on there. It's not very much glue at all. It's just barely enough to hold it in there. I mean, after all, if you have an accident or something like that, you can pull this back out too. Okay, so it doesn't take much to hold that thing in there. It's not like it's gonna vibrate out in a flight condition. Okay, so here that is. Here we go, just like this. Then we'll just pick up that little bit of excess. I went even heavier on this one. Okay. And like I said, you don't hardly need any, because this little, it's not like it's bearing any mechanical load or anything beyond the little teeny bit that you get from when you crash. Then it will. But we're hoping the prop doesn't come off on this plane. Okay, just a little bit on the end. And then if you kind of rotate it in at an angle, sometimes the glue will be neater. Okay, so real simple, nothing to it. Now, we have to glue these 2 wing halves together. And so the easiest way to do that is probably gonna be to go ahead and get these wires untangled. So they're all kind of flat, you know where they are, you make sure the labels are on. Yep, they are. And then I kind of want to do this first without glue, just to make sure we don't run into problems. This is just really going too smooth. I'm just like ready to be surprised by something here at any moment. Okay, so that, you don't actually have to glue that. That's really tight, so you wouldn't have to glue it, the joiner. You could if you want to, but honestly, I don't think you need to. Okay, so we're just gonna pull this up and just lay them on top of the wing. I'm just gonna pull, there's a little bit of dihedral in this. You see that spot that's gonna overlap there? So that's a good spot to get some glue in there. It feels really sturdy. Now I don't see a screw hole here. There was a screw hole between this little area on one of the planes that we recently built. I think it was a T-28, right? And I forgot about that on camera. So what I'm gonna do here is I'll probably go ahead and do some China glue, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of hot glue as well, okay? So, well, actually, I don't know. It just kind of depends on how this goes. Let's try the China glue first. China glue here, we've got such a good tight joint like you would expect on most radio-controlled aircraft. And we just don't experience that a lot with the Dynams. There's usually kind of a gap where you need it to be tight, and so you kind of have to almost basically put a bench vise on them to hold them together. And so I'm just not experiencing that today. So this is great. Remember how I told you about using that cardboard for the glue? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great idea back when I talked about it earlier.
Well, usually we have to set the canopy aside and stuff, so it works good for that.
Yep, exactly. Now there's a piece that goes in here, but we can actually glue this stuff in the meantime. Oh crap. See what happened? Oh. My China glue dripped. Aw, dang it. Maybe we'll get really, really lucky and that'll be where the CG is. So later when I complain about that, remind me that I did it.
Okay.
Because that was totally me. But you'll notice that the China glue did defeat that paint pretty sufficiently, okay? I think you're gonna have better luck if you go behind me to the left. Okay. Not there. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna let this pause and set up for just a quick second. We'll be right back. Okay. All right, so the glue is setting up very quickly, so we need to get this stuff together. See how it's barely wanting to push together? That's because the glue is setting up so quick. And the longer we wait, the longer it is, or the harder it is to get those two to contact. And so you want to contact the areas that you want lined up like this first, then go in and kind of just use your hands to squish it together. And then same thing here, you want to use your hands to squish it together, but just spread out your weight as much as you can so you don't crush the foam any more than you have to get the job done, okay? So you just see this little gapping here. You can stick your fingers into the landing gear holes and kind of squeeze it together a little bit, okay? And same thing over here. You're gonna flip the whole thing over, just let those wires be where they are and just kind of work the two halves together. See that gap there? I want to try to get that gap worked out right now. Pull it apart, stick it back together. You see where I'm fighting it there? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is where hot glue comes in handy. Okay, so see how it bubbled up a little bit? It's probably worth it for me. That's pretty hot. That first squirt out of the hot glue gun is always like insanely hot. But if you can, the key is you got to get it to cool quickly so it doesn't overwhelm the foam. Because once you get that hot glue between the foam pieces, then it doesn't want to cool. So you have to be a little bit careful the way you do that. But the idea is these 2 points are important to keep held together tight, okay? It's gonna make a big difference. Okay? Then the other thing you can do, you're good there, is you can come in here where it's gonna be hidden too, and you can also glue, and then it's less critical. how it's gonna look. But you see how I did that? I just followed the glue gun along the edge. It's not really complicated or anything. But as that sets up here in a second, then we'll get, in fact, I'm gonna just, you can stay there, camera crew.
Okay.
I'm just gonna grab this Q-tip that had our glue from earlier. So then I can do this without burning myself. See what I'm doing? Just spreading out the surface area here. And then that'll give us a nice bond. And it's hidden, so it doesn't matter really what it looks like. Okay, so that's gonna hold the front part together where the landing gear and all this important assembly, and plus where the wing is gonna slide into the fuse, okay? So that's important. That's gonna take just a couple seconds to heat up or rather cool down, I mean. And then on this other half, you can see we've already kind of got the tight joints, so we're not gonna mess with that. And then back here, of course, we've got, this back portion has a bit of a gap, and we've got this black screw receiver, nylon screw receiver. It receives this thing. That's gonna slide through there. That's gonna act to hold that onto the back half of the fuselage. So this one, it'd be kind of nice if we could get away with doing that with China glue just because it's lighter. So we're probably gonna do a little bit of both, maybe on this one too. Just because if you melt too much of the material around this, you're gonna get a poor bond. Okay. So that's gonna sit in here, dry fit it, make sure you got it so it's going the right direction, which that is the right direction. And obviously you wanna glue this surface, that surface, and then possibly this edge, but I'm just gonna do probably 2 edges here, the inside edge and then that side. Okay, that's quite a bit of glue, you see that? So you see this? So now I can just work that around. Now this is another one of those times where you may opt to just kind of cram it in there while it's wet instead of waiting until the contact adhesive sets up at all, because you're gonna get a lot better bond. See how it's pulling that really tight. So we're just gonna go in here like this and just kind of hit the corners and edges and just get a little bit on there. You could let it cook for a few minutes, but really in our case, you need to be able to slide it in. So I would say slide it in. And then if we have any issues with it slipping a lot, we can go ahead and use hot glue as well. Now the other trick is, of course, you can go to the other side and you can glue it from the back side, which is nice because then you kind of keep it from causing lots of different beautifying issues. So like over here, see, I'm just pulling the trigger and forcing that glue into the joint. So with hot glue, it's gonna actually open up the joint and make itself a little pocket to sit in, you see? So you do need to be a little bit aware of that, because if it makes the pocket too big, then you're not gonna have a very good bond. So that's why I like to go back over on a surface like this where it's hidden and just kind of spread it. And that's just gonna basically help cool it down quicker too. And then you don't have to burn your finger doing it. All right, so this wing is gonna be nice and stout. Sometimes and this was my fault, guys. I just got a little drip of glue right there. So that actually wasn't a Dynam thing. I am just really incredibly happy with the way this thing is going together. I'm surprised and happy. Now, this can set up for a little bit, or we could put it in right now. Honestly, I don't know that it makes a big difference, but why don't we just go ahead and let that set for a little bit. There's a dihedral on here, so as it sits, it'd be nice if there's a way to kind of keep it going the right way, like this. The other thing too is I just want to evaluate this real quick. Yeah, it only goes in one way. It's got that flat spot on it, okay? I just don't want that to fall out while we're doing something else. So I'm just gonna go a little teeny bit of hot glue right there, and then just like a little teeny bit of hot glue back in this back corner, okay? And then I'm gonna take this and just kind of smear it around. And that's gonna just basically stop me from worrying about it, because then that won't slowly fall out. Because I want to keep this thing upright so I can lay it here on the couch, and then that'll keep the wings without having any pressure on them. If you set it on a flat surface like this, it might actually work the dihedral out of it a little bit. Okay, so the next kind of big question mark is, do we put the tail on first or do we build the front end? I would say let's go ahead and do the tail next.
Okay.
The instruction manual probably shows you some of this, but we've just been really not too impressed with the Dynam instructions, so we've just kind of gotten away from using them. Okay, so this tail is going to have a screw here and a screw here, and it looks like the horizontal stabilizer is going to go in here. Obviously, we have a control horn that goes on there. This needs to be bent to kind of work that pinch hinge. Okay. So I think I'm going to try a little bit of China glue and a little bit of hot glue here, just a combination therein. So we'll just do a little bit of cement, and then we'll just do a little bit of hot glue too. Watch your fingers, please. Just don't want to get burned. Okay. So now I'm holding that down just like that. Okay, we'll try to get this additional schmutz off of there. Then we'll just spread this also. Yeah, that was hot glue that came out on the side there. So we'll let this set up for just a quick second. Mostly cooling. Now this is going to go in there, but we have another control horn we have to install. So again, these control horns are pretty easy. If you're not going to be flying the plane the same day, then this China glue would be perfectly fine. To be honest with you, you can let it set up and then stick them in there. But my experience is that no matter how good you are, that glue is only going to set up so much in the period of building this plane. And I'm talking about some of these Dynams have taken us hours. This one is, knock on wood, for whatever reason, not. Okay. Okay, so that's going to go forward. The control horn always points to the middle of the hinge. Okay. That's a rule of thumb for all manufacturers, not just Dynam. I got to get a Q-tip to pick up some of this extra glue. So this extra glue that kind of shot out the end, I can just roll that off like this. And then that just goes bye-bye. Then it's not a problem. But you do have to work kind of quick given that there's hot glue mixed into it. Okay. And you could do a prettier job if you're maybe not filming yourself. A little bit more freedom of movement. Okay, so that pinch hinge feels weaker, but it's not as bad as like the PT-17. I think the pinch hinge broke on us, or we had to tape it together. Was it the PT-17? It was a biplane, right? So anyway, yeah. That is ultimately going to go in here. And then between that is going to be sandwiched this. So let's see if that control horn is feeling good. Yeah, it feels good. Feels good. I think we're good to go. We can go ahead and install that now. So the first thing we need to do before we do that, let's make sure we know which screws we're using. We always have problems with this on the Dynams.
Do you want me to look at
the
directions?
Not at all.
Okay.
It's a waste of time. They gave us these things.
Oh.
You can't put them on the rudder because it doesn't come all the way through, but you may be able to put them on this, I wonder. I can't quite tell. See, I'm just trying to slide it through. Yep, it does go. See that? Okay, so I don't know if there's like a right way and a wrong way on that. I probably put it in backward, but it doesn't really probably make a big difference either. As long as it goes in there and stays put, who cares? Then actually on top of this part, this is where you could get some more kind of immediacy. Just throw a little bit of glue on top of that. And then that hot glue will hold the pegs that shoot through the bottom, which would be a nice quick and dirty way to, see, it's wanting to come off really easy. So that didn't work very good. We'll try it the other way this time. That snapped a lot better. Okay, that looks better too.
Sounded more definitive.
Yeah. Okay, so I feel like that's more solid too. I am still going to give it a little bit of glue just so that that glue can be set up on there. Remember, this is plastic and hot glue. It's not like it's going onto foam, so you can be a little bit more reckless with it. You don't have to fear for melting the part that you're attaching to. Okay, so then this, that's just hot glue, so I'm just spreading it so that it's kind of, then lick the finger and spread it. Okay, so we're good. All right, so now that goes right here. It's kind of got this little key spot where it's lines up. Okay, so it should go there. You can tell because if you were to clamp this together, you can tell where it's going to have clearance for the surface to move up and down, okay? So if you're gluing that together, there isn't really a bump here, okay? So you want to be a little bit careful. If you're thinking about gluing that on, you better be right. Okay, then this thing, this little key slides into the socket here. All right, just like this. Okay, perfect. Again, probably the best fit we've ever had on a Dynam. So we will take it. And then let's take some of these long screws. Let me just double check. I can look in there and see. Okay, I'm going to try to hold this vertical. Look at the joint on your side. Okay, I'm resisting the urge to jinx us.
That was the longest of the screws?
It was the longest screw, yeah.
Okay.
It's not machine screws like up on the front, so it's a pretty obvious choice. And okay, so you've got to be kidding me. That was 2.5 to 3 hours of our last 2 Dynam builds. That's the way it should go. Very good, very much better. Okay, everything looks good here. We'll have to do pretty significant adjustment there, and that's because the servo is not centered. So now that it is roughly centered, that's kind of hard on your servos, so do that sparingly. Now we have to get the landing gear in there. So far the canopy is gluing on swimmingly, it looks like, so that's awesome. Looks like there's going to be a set screw on the side here. Sorry if I bumped you with the mic there, folks. They did include an Allen tool, an Allen wrench. So this is going to drop in here. Of course, you want this to be at the same angle as the rudder, which should be square at this point. Neither are hooked up until now. Now this is tied to the servo and this is not yet. Man, this is like night and day.
I'm still nervous.
I'm not.
That's good.
There's still plenty of room for failure, but at this point, I'm just assuming that we're going to have continued good luck.
I hope that they're making some of these improvements. That would be
Well,
great.
yeah, I agree. There's a bunch of extra set screws, a bunch of extra screws, and a bunch of extra short screws. Then the spinner. Okay, so at this point, I'm not even going to really mess with these just quite yet, because in order to land this, I have to have the radio system on, so we'll just leave that loose for the moment. This might actually be about right where it is, so I'm not going to move that yet either. So I think at this point, it's time to go ahead and do the spinner and prop adapter. Okay, so we've got access over here. Now, you can do this with this thing on or with this thing off, but eventually when you get to putting the spinner on, you of course have to have this back on there. So keep that all in mind. I'm using these 4 provided screws and this aluminum prop adapter. And this is going to line up here. Okay, pretty simple stuff. So I'm just going to drop one of these in here. This looks like a really pretty complicated component. Let's see if this lines up first, and then we'll use our tools that we have. I can't tell if that's lining up. That is a different size. So they do give you the driver for the set screw on the tail wheel, but they don't give you the driver for these, which seems like a Dynam thing to do. Did you hear?
I heard it.
It sounded like there was a screw that popped out. Oh, here it is right there.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking that's probably 2 millimeters, folks. Yeah, it looks like 2 millimeters to me. So 2 millimeter nut driver, or not nut driver, hex drive. And we'll just get it lined up with the first hole. Once we're started, we'll make sure it fits. Now, I mean, in a perfect world, you'd put Loctite on all this stuff. But at this point, I'm still very reluctant to use Loctite on this model because we're so premature in the model build. But you can also use CA if you don't have it. And CA will flow into there. It does make it pretty hard to break free, but it's a similar way of doing it. You can also use paint. And paint will do the same kind of.
Wait. You have.
What now?
You had a screw in there already, didn't you?
Oh, I did?
Yeah. Is that why it wasn't going in?
Yeah, thank you. Good catch, camera crew. Okay, so there's that. And then there's one more. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. So now we'll just see what kind of torque we can get on those things. Going just like star pattern style. Got them all tight first, and then now I'm really torquing them down. Except evidently I didn't torque that one down. That was the first one I did, right?
Yeah.
Now we're just gonna go around in a circle and just make sure they're all tight, and they are all very tight, as in as tight as I can make them, which means the next step is to break the tool. All right, so the yellow is a good indicator for the bottom. All right, that's pretty good fit. Is there a decal on the bottom by chance? I know there's just like a real easy way to tell.
No, not without looking at the diagram.
I don't see anything. Okay, so I guess at this point, I'm a little bit tempted to just take a piece of tape to hold that on, because we can always cut the piece of tape and it won't compromise anything. But then this is gonna make sure that this thing stays tight, okay? So I'm gonna push this back while I can easily do that, and then just put one piece of tape here. And if we need to get in here, all we have to do is with the X-Acto knife, cut that. Okay. And then with an X-Acto knife, cutting it, it'll make a nice clean cut. The only problem, the only trade-off is just the simple fact that you've got that shiny piece. Okay. Just gonna flip this over. I just wanna check one spot here. Make sure that's good. Yeah, we're so far so good. Okay. Now on the top, kind of the same drill. I think I'm gonna do the same exact thing. Not real super excited about taping this, but I don't trust those magnets as far as I can throw them. Okay, that's good. This is free, not hitting anything. That's always nice. Then there is a prop. Oh, of course we have a spinner, duh. So the spinner is using Phillips. So we're gonna try to use the provided screw first, which is right here. Let's go ahead and do that. Again, this is a Dynam 13.7 prop. Almost looks like a slow flight prop because it's such a wide fin, wide propeller blade. Okay, so there's some small screws here to hold the spinner front to back. It's got the cool swoopy thing on there. Hypnotizing effect. Okay. Okay, so we can pull that in half. We're gonna just kind of keep this in our hand. And okay, so I think we're fine. There's obviously a correct way to do this. And so you better make sure you find out where it lines up. Okay, you see what I just did there? I kept that in my hand, okay? But I don't know if, yeah, I don't think I did it right. See, there we go. See, I gotta find the right spot where the swirls are gonna line back up. So it's gonna be like this, which is weird because that doesn't make the blades line up very easy, does it? See that? That's the way you got to do it. You have to line it up first. Okay? The reason you have to do that is because then when you assemble this, you're going to sandwich this together. Okay? Just like I'm doing here. Okay, so we're in agreement that this needs to push all the way into the supports. Okay?
Yes.
So help me remember that here in a minute. I don't know if this is keyed or what the deal is. It's not wanting to go on there very well though. This is definitely the right way. I know it's just a really tight fit, guys. Okay, so then there's 2 fingers that have to go up and around. So give them a close-up shot if you can. And I am not lined up yet, okay? See? Once you get this right, it's gonna, see how it drop back?
Yep.
That's what you have to get right. Again, very, very non-customary Dynam fitment. Guys, this is like by far the best Dynam build we've ever done. It's a extremely good fit. And my camera crew has evidently got an eye on where the screw went, but I'm gonna go ahead and start dropping this together for the moment. Okay, so now you see our little zigzag thing, or the corkscrew paint job?
Yeah, it lined up good.
Yep. Okay, so we'll just tighten these on real quick. I'll tighten what I have, and then I can grab that last one.
Do you want me to pause and find it while you're screwing that one?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, hang on. Okay.
Okay, so we found the screw, but I also realized I got ahead of myself, and I kind of forgot to put the washer and nut on. That would have been unfortunate, because we've had enough Dynam props come off. Okay. My threads were a little bit rough on the beginning there, so it was making me very nervous. Rough threads are different than threads that don't work, period. And the last Dynam we had, the T28, there was no making it work. By the way, we did not find that third screw. We just used one of the spares. Just so you know, there are some spares. But I hate to promise that because it seems like sometimes we get 2 entire sets and then other times we get like 3/4 of a set. It just kind of depends on the plane. That is really, really surprisingly good fitment. Not something we're used to on the Dynams. And it would be a very, very welcome change. Very welcome change. Because to be honest with you, like I said, on most of the ones that we had issues with, it's like you're 95% of the way there, and then the last 5%, there's some big flop. So far, we haven't had one on this plane at all. It's just been all good. The biggest mistake has been mine.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely. Now, one other thing too, this compared to the one that we recently reviewed that's significantly more expensive, is that it's significantly cheaper. This is going to be a lot more economical choice. It's also a bit smaller. You get into the 1.5 meter class and it's a big plane. This is a 1.27, which, you know, 1.3 seems to be the going rate for most of the Dynam planes, and that's a good size class. Okay, so far we're looking really good.
This one doesn't have flaps though, too.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal too. That's true. I had forgotten about that, but totally true. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's look at this and see what we need to do for the wing.
Okay.
Okay, so the wing is sitting off to the side. We have some controls and things that are going to be a lot easier to undo now. So I think we'll just go ahead and undo the bread clip or the bread twisty tie and throw that out of the way. We're just going to make sure that our leads are labeled correctly. Elevator is going to here. Yep. And then the throttle is going back here for some reason. And then rudder. So elevator, rudder, everything so far is correct. It's gonna be a lot easier to land this LED line now as opposed to later. I suppose that's gonna be a flashing LED. So let's, cause that's gonna go to here. So you can see on this little LED controller, there's flash on and flashing. Okay, so you just go to these, whoops. Flashing is over here. So we're just gonna chase up to this one. And then we're gonna plug in this wire. Red to red, black to brown. I'll show you a closer shot there. See how the black mates up with the, okay. Then this extra one that we're not using, I'll just slide it in so that it kind of goes in the back side here. That's a nice trick just to kind of get it out of the way for the moment. Okay, so I don't want to tangle up with all this stuff, so I'm just gonna reach through the fuse with the front access pulled. And then we're just gonna slide these wires up here as well. There's not a lot of extra lead here, so it's a little bit tempting for me to maybe possibly try to put the receiver on the top of the wing. Let's look at that for a minute.
Okay.
So we've got the wing here. Obviously all the glue is set up to the point where we can work it. It's gonna be really hard to plug everything in if we put the receiver in here, but it would definitely fit in there.
Where do your 2 Y cables go? Where do your 2 Y cables?
They go on these.
Oh, okay.
I'm just trying to think, because really what's gonna happen is your receiver would have to go here. I don't think that's gonna work. We're gonna have to put the Y cables on and then feed it through.
Okay.
And that means you're not gonna know what's what because your Y cables you're not gonna see that. Okay, so the ailerons, brown to brown. Okay, so you got your brown to brown there. Your other aileron, let's untangle this so it comes out nice and straight and clean, like this. And then we're gonna plug that in, brown to brown. Okay, say brown to brown. So we're good there. And that's gonna go up to the top of the plane. And then for the landing gear, kind of the same exact thing going on here. Again, this is, you know, by far the easiest Dynam we have put together yet. So that is a very, very welcome change. Extremely, really highly welcome. Okay, so we got white to orange, just like this. And then we got this. You see there's a difference in length. That's manageable. Okay, so they're both gonna look identical, and I'm not gonna pull those labels off, so we'll just have to test it. No big deal. We'll plug one in, and if it works, it works.
Okay.
Obviously, the LEDs are gonna be super easy to tell apart. So what I'm gonna do is, did we already throw away that bread tie?
No, it's right here. I can grab it.
Okay, so that bread tie might come in handy for this step because then I can tie these together like so. And that's just gonna be so that we don't have to fight them going through the fuse. And we'll probably have to take that off, but just in case we don't, it'll keep it nice and tidy. All right, so now the next challenge is gonna be feeding all this wire through, and then we have to take the throttle wire. Obviously that needs to go back to where the receiver is going to be, which I'm assuming the receiver is gonna be up here where the battery is also hanging out. And then the rudder and the elevator wires are gonna have to also feed up there, and I don't wanna have to chase those out with a pair of forceps. So let's slide this through the hole as well and just kinda let those fall nicely through. Doesn't take too much effort. It looks like we might also be able to go through to that front hole, but I'm not sure. Actually, you know what? I wonder if that's what we're supposed to be doing. Because you see how these might go through here. Yeah, that's where it's supposed to go. Okay, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Man, this is like, did they like have the engineer around for this plane and then they like fired him for the other ones, or what's the deal?
Maybe they just hired him.
Maybe they just
Maybe
hired
he's
him.
new, hopefully.
But I mean, look how much better this one has gone. It's been like night and day difference, like almost not Dynam style.
I know.
Okay, so that's really good. So now we can put in the 2 machine screws. I think they're just like the ones we used on the tail. And then we have 1 big nylon screw. Kind of weird that they would give us a nylon screw and then have machine screws up front. Mm-hmm. But I mean, well, that went pretty smooth. But like I said, I don't really have a problem with it going awesome.
I don't have a problem at all.
I'm still waiting for the catch.
I know. That's what I said. I'm still nervous.
This is one more. If this goes well, we're running out of things that could go horribly.
I'm really having a hard time with this.
It's like, okay, are we on hidden camera? Wait, we are on camera.
When did they pop out and say, just kidding?
Yeah, this is going extremely well, guys. They're definitely biting, and they're definitely pulling a piece of material back.
I was gonna say.
So far, so good. It tightened up. It kind of bottomed out, which is what I want to feel, or I want to see some crushing. And I would say, you know, at this point, wow, this is going super well. And I can sort of see the elevator, and the rudder did fall back in there, but I can grab it more than likely with my fingertips. That is pretty tight though. But by the time we get the battery in here and we kind of figure out where the CG needs to be, we might be kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm gonna try to tie these together. So let's get this laid down and tie those together. You got any more twisty ties there, camera crew?
Sure, I won't.
Dumpster diving
dig
style?
any in the garbage, but
How are we gonna keep our bread bag tied?
I don't know. Since our kids lose them every time they open a bag of bread.
Okay, so all the labels are right where I'm trying to do this, unfortunately. Okay, well, there's that. So they're all held in place. And then we have this spot where the other LEDs can get landed. We might as well just land those right now while we're talking about it. Okay, so the flashing lights are over here. These ones are gonna be solid. Red to red, brown to black. Every time I plug these in, I feel like it's gonna go through and stab me, but I've yet to do that.
You're on the solid one?
Okay, so let's just do that. On.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just always feel like there's 3 flashing because I always think it's weird that there's 2.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that that's true.
But, I mean, that's what it's
They have this label on backward, actually. See this? See that? How it says receiver, S plus minus? This is actually backward. I think that's supposed to be over here. It's supposed to be like this. See? See how that goes? Because this is signal. Oh, wait, that's not signal. So maybe that is supposed to be over here. See this? Yep, that's the way that's supposed to go. Okay, they had it on backward. So this is going to be flashing. Okay. Well, that's a pain. If I trusted the, well, I mean, it was a Dynam. We knew it was too good to be true.
There's an easy way to test that, is there?
You're right. I don't need to test it. I know for sure it is because I thought that label might be on upside down earlier. I just didn't think about it. Because there's the negative for on. So right now the red's going to be on and the LEDs on the wingtips are going to be flashing, which will look totally stupid. The only way to really fix it is to flip these wires around, which we can also do that. So you see this multi-connector here? Do we have the X-Acto knife, camera crew, right there?
Yes.
Let's grab that X-Acto knife for me, please.
Got the cap on still.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to separate this one that has 3 wires you can come in here and you can put the blade in sideways and lift this plastic. And then you can just flip these leads, okay? The only reason I'm doing this is because it's really hard to get back there. Plus this teaches you guys a new trick if you didn't already have this trick up your sleeve. Okay, so you see how that's out now? So now I just need to switch this one over. So I'm gonna do one at a time so I remember polarity. This one goes here, like that. Hope that doesn't break on me. I bend it up kind of a lot more than I needed to. And technically the minus, don't know yet if they've got the controls happening on the negative side of the circuit or the positive side of the circuit. I'm assuming it's on the positive side of the circuit, but honestly, you could do either side. We've got the sharp end of the blade in there. I've got the kind of the dull side to give me a little more surface area. There we go. Okay, then I'm going to slide this into the second slot. Okay, so now there's the one side. So now this is going to be the solid side. So same polarity, remember? And we want them to go like this. You can tell by studying the way that the other two look. Okay, so red's going to be on my left and brown is going to be on my right. And then snap them down in. And then this thing, make sure your polarity is right. Okay, so now this is going to be your solid on. Solid on. Then you can slip this back down into the hole. And you can stick it into 4 at the same time. There you go. Then this is just the trick from earlier. Just put your red and your brown leads in to match up with the one in front of it. And then that kind of protects your leads from shorting out once you get your receiver involved in the action. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward stuff. So now the next step is, at some point we're gonna have to figure out where the receiver is going and how the CG is gonna work out. This plane is basically built, so let's go ahead and mark the CG, because we can do that now. Are you finding it?
70 to 75.
70 to 75 from where?
Measured at where the wing meets the fuse.
Okay, 70 to 75. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I got 70 on the calipers, the world's crappiest calipers. That's 7 centimeters or 70 millimeters. Where the wing meets the fuse, okay? So I'm just gonna go up here with these two and then just carry out to here. Now 75. Okay, same thing. I'm trying to be parallel to the fuselage. Okay, so that would put it right in the middle of that dot. Okay. So now we're going to go over to the other side. Kind of the same scenario. So we're at 70. Hold it upside down. I'm just using this front two and the back two are equidistant. Yep. It's exactly what we're experiencing on the other side. Okay, and then I've got a mark, so it's really easy to see. Shouldn't be any problem to get your fingers on it. If you do too close to the fuse, sometimes it's kind of hard to get it to sit on your fingers. That's the way I test it. You can use a balancing tool if you want. The trouble is when you get into this hobby, there's a lot of stuff involved. And the more stuff you get, the more stuff you have to store, and it's just one thing after another. Next thing you know, you're trying to kind of minimize some of the things that you need to facilitate the 200 planes in your basement. That's where we are, at least. Okay, so those leads are really short that are going back to the rudder and elevator, so I'm not sure what we're going to do about that. We definitely don't have any better option that I can see. It didn't come with any extensions or anything. But we may end up getting cornholed into using extension cords.
There's the receiver's right there.
Yeah, well, I guess it depends. I kind of doubt it's going to reach because it's so dang close.
Yeah.
The other thing too is remember what we did last time we put together a plane that was a plug and fly? We got burned. Okay, so this is basically, well actually we'll pause for a second and come right back. So we were going to do the radio setup, but then I said, no, let's not do the radio setup yet. Let's get the decals done because that's part of the build. We try to keep these things segmented in order. And so I had screwed up with a drip of glue here, so I just went ahead and put one of those danger logos there, which is kind of goofy. I normally wouldn't do that, but just because I made that mistake, I said that's a good way to cover it. Okay, hold on, hon. Stay where we are. Okay, so you remember earlier we were talking about moving this forward a little bit to help hold on the cowl? That's not gonna work because this thing is cut out. So we'll just come right back. Camera crew, you wanna go look at the list and we'll show them what's next?
The other one, so you're gonna do opposite side. And then
How about we do the stuff that's on this side first?
the wing on that side is the white
The cross there.
outline cross.
Okay.
Goes on the wing.
I need to stand there. Oh, don't rip off the paint, please. Ooh, that was a bummer. Well, I screwed that one up pretty bad.
That would have been a good, like, 2-piece decal.
Yeah, I'd say. That was way big. And one, it was awkward with that middle box taken out. But what I did is I pulled that, show them a close up right there. I accidentally stretched it. And then right here, you can show them this. See?
Yeah, wrinkled.
Okay. Just trying to get some of the panel lines to push through. Okay, so, I mean, it still looks all right now it's on there. Looks fine. I mean, it's not perfect, but I've had worse decals to put on. Okay, so the next one is going to be the large cross on the wing, which is clear. That's clear, like this.
Yes.
Because the black ones go on the side.
Yep.
So this one goes on the top and it goes
Right at the inside portion of the aileron.
How about that? Okay, then where the seams are, you gotta do a little extra. Okay, that looks pretty good.
Then,
Are they supposed to be on the bottom too?
yeah.
Black ones?
Yep.
Yeah,
9
black.
and 10 go on the bottom.
They're black. I'm not looking at the numbers really necessarily on these ones.
I just didn't order.
Okay, so see this white line? That's what I'm gonna use as my lineup point. I'm gonna line up that kind of right there.
Okay.
So it's the same on both sides.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good deal. And then I'm waiting to do the one on the back because there's a 1 in front of it. And the 1 that goes in front of it will only fit if you get it all right. So I guess I have to kind of do the hard.
Oh.
Yeah,
Next.
the bird sticker, the
Okay.
gigantically long bird sticker.
Do you want to cut it?
It's a little bit tempting, but no, I'll just have to be more careful. You can probably show this side if you need to.
I'll just try and stay out of your way though.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to stick this to a couple of my fingers here so I can support it on this side, keep it away from the fuse. And I'm basically concentrating on this point here, and I'm just going to try to kind of hold that up next to it. And then just lay it. And if you need to reposition a little bit, this would be the place you'd reposition it if you can. Then I can pull this tight right to the other side. And then I'm basically going to lay this down pull that so that it goes where it needs to go. Bring it all the way out. And that's as good as it's gonna get, guys. I don't know that you can, these things don't stretch out very much. See, I kind of have the same bubbling that I had on the other one. Just there's too much of, there's too much distance covered. So it wants to fold with the shape of the plane. You could probably heat it up too.
From a distance, it looks really good.
Yeah, but there's like a imperfection here and an imperfection here, but I mean, it kind of is what it is on these things. You know, it's on an imperfect surface and everything, so. But like I said, if you're wanting to really get that right, you could heat that up with a heat gun a little bit. Just don't dimple your foam.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so then we already did the wingtip one. So now we've got, I believe the small black squares go on the tail. And then
no, 9 and 10 go underneath.
This is not 9 and 10. This is 12.
Those small black. Okay. I meant them.
These ones go where the swastikas are up on the box there. So definitely the correct approach for an international audience. Okay. And then the big one goes on the side mid-fuse. But let's get these on so that I can kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is the center, or 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is the center. 4 down. That's where I'm putting the center.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, here we go. So we'll stick that on there. Okay, perfect. Then these are the smaller ones and these are the bigger ones. You can tell because they are just a little bit different in size. The number 1 goes just in front of it. So that's going to give us our gapping. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the ones off first. One thing I can say about the Dynams is that the decals have actually been pretty good. We've had really good luck with them. That long decal there, I wouldn't write home about that. That's fine. Just having 1 or 2 challenging decals on a plane is not really out of the question. We run into that once in a while. I don't know if these are perfectly symmetrical up and right and horizontally. So I'm just grabbing them off the decal sheet and then going straight on with the upright position. I don't know if I'm crazy about the hawk thing on the side, but I guess we'll find out. I'd say so far it looks really nice. So now is this one going to be on the left or the right over here? I think technically on the other side it was like this, but that would look kind of weird, wouldn't it?
It's still in the front.
Yep. Okay. So it goes between the swoosh and where the cross is. Okay, good. Okay, so here we go. So we'll just stick that on there nicely, follow the panel lines, just like so. Okay, perfect. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So far, so good. Really liking the way it's turning out. Let's flip this thing over.
Numbers go.
They go underneath the tail. Underneath the tail.
Oh, there I see them.
I'm gonna just get these bigger ones on first, and then if there's room issues, space issues. So where do these ones go? Like over the servos? How about we just cover up the servo like this? Try to cover up the line as much as possible. I always love if I can hide a servo with something as simple as a decal. That's a pretty cool setup. This has got to be one of the easiest builds we've ever done with a Dynam. It is by far the best fit.
Yep.
So if you guys are thinking about buying this plane, I mean, if it's just strictly based on how easy it goes together, yeah, do it. I mean, especially if you like the plane. I wouldn't buy it just because it's easy to put together, but you know what I mean. So far, I'm really impressed with how well it's gone together. There are a ton of these mold releases. That's why this one's so hard to get to stick. So I'm having to kind of basically flatten those out as I go. Ow, ow. These stupid things here. Okay. Ow. All right, so let's flip this thing over. There are a lot of things that stick out of this plane to get you. And it is really, it's a fairly light plane, folks. I mean, it's really light, which is great. That means it's gonna fly good. Generally, light planes fly good. Okay, so there's two numbers. The one number that starts with the F goes underneath the tail. Ow. I just kicked my toe. Where's the 990013 go?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. 13 and 14?
This goes here.
Is it a continuation?
I doubt it. I don't know what it would
14 might go on the tail above the thing. Yes, above where the I don't know what those are actually called.
The what?
Where the swastika would be.
Oh, it goes up on here. Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay. Fair enough. You talking about the crosses?
Yes. Is that what they're called?
I don't know. Probably. The crosses? Are they
Where's
British?
the name? I don't know. Someone will tell us in the comments.
I'm sure they will. There's a lot to know in the aviation thing.
Yeah.
If you know it all, then you're probably a little bit more old than I am. Because, I mean, it takes a long time to pick up on everything. Okay, that looks sweet,
good.
actually. Really happy with the decals. And that's all of them. Oh, we have some nose steps. Let's throw some nose steps on.
Okay.
Okay, so nose step. I like the nose step. These are the generic ones, so we'll just throw that on here because that's where the flap would be. If this thing had flaps, of course it doesn't have flaps, which is kind of a bummer. Trying to get symmetry here. Just sticking it on there like that. And then there's an open. And yeah, the rest of them, could you
I'm gonna take care of those.
file those away
file
for me?
those.
That'd be great.
Sure.
Okay, so then over here we've got this open. I'll just stick it there because, you know, I don't know. It opens that way.
Close enough.
All right, and then this one here is empty. So we didn't have any problems with the decals. Still kind of waiting for the Dynam surprise, but we haven't had it yet. Hopeful that we won't. So the next step, of course, is going to be we need to figure out our radio setup. So we'll pause, clean up some stuff, and come right back. All right, so we're going to get started with the radio setup. In order to get the radio set up, we have to talk about what battery we're using. The manual calls out a 2200 4S, and so I'm going to use a Gen 2 30C. They call for a 25C. This obviously is a really expensive pack. You wouldn't have to use this, but it's also might be a double-edged sword in that these new smart packs are so small. And we have run into some dilemmas with that in terms of getting the CG to work out. And that's what we're gonna do next is we're gonna try to work out the CG, okay? You're like, but Brian, your receiver's not in there. I know, we need to know if we can mount the receiver here or if we have to do something else weird because like this battery could go all the way to the front as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so they have nice straps in here. Do they slide? If they slide, they'll be worth a crap. Yes, they actually do, that's great. Now let's see if the other side does. Yes, that is so nice. Okay, so we're gonna pull this and tighten it around the battery and then just kind of, it's always challenging to get these ones tight. Usually the best way I found is you have to have that seam right there on the side of the pack. And it's just tough because there's just like nowhere to get your fingers, okay? So that's held in there pretty good now, okay? So we're not gonna go any further. We're just gonna assume that this bundle of wires is gonna stay exactly as it is, which it probably won't. In fact, I'm sure it won't. But then we're just gonna stuff it in there, throw caution to the wind, and then we're gonna see how this thing CGs out. My guess is it's probably not gonna work out real great yet. I am gonna have the power wire approximately where it goes because that's a significant amount of weight. We'll put the canopy cover, or not the canopy, but the cover back on. The tape is holding it, okay? Boy, that thing looks really good. This is the first we're getting a look at it. Mm-hmm. That is really pretty. So the CG, so ready to be disappointed. Are you kidding me? It's perfect.
Are you on the front or in the
middle?
middle?
I'm on the back hole. On the front hole, it's a little bit tail heavy. On the back hole, it's perfect. So I would say at this point, the landing gear don't come out at a weird angle. They don't set forward or backward at all, or it's incidental. We're gonna have a receiver that's gonna be mounted at or around this spot, okay, which is the CG. So it should be CG independent or CG indifferent. It's not gonna make a difference. But I would say we wanna try to get it about right at the CG just because that's where we can best take advantage of it. If you wanna put a bigger pack in there, the bigger pack would actually maybe help in this application. But being that the 2200 4S is what they call for, that's what we're gonna try with first and just make sure things work great. This thing is really light, so I'm actually quite excited to see it fly. Obviously the IC3 on this pack should be no problem plugging into the XT60. I mean, it's not as easy as using an IC3. You're gonna show them this. It's not gonna be quite as easy as using, see, you gotta kind of work it in there, okay? So just be aware they do work together with an IC3 or an EC3 into an XT60. But if you were the other way around, if you had a battery with an XT60, it will not mate up with an IC3, okay? But of course, an XT60M would be just fine on this plane. Okay, so we were talking about the receiver. We know that this battery is gonna work out, so we'll just go ahead and leave that in there. Let's open this Gavin receiver and transmitter pack. I think we may have opened this when we did the T28, just so you guys saw kind of how things went. But I can't remember if we opened both sides of this equation. We opened the 8 channel for that one. Okay, so these things are in here pretty tight. So if you get one and you're like, geez, how do you get this thing out? Ooh, that was a lot easier than the 8 actually. Okay, so we'll just pop this thing opened, see what's inside. Well packed. Ooh, I have it backward. Oh, so it says that on the front. Okay, pretty simple. Looks like we have a bag all the way around it. Be careful, that antenna is not super strong. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Protective covers over the screens. Peel those off. Looks really nice, actually. It's got some weight to it. The sticks feel fine. I hate that this is spring-loaded for the binding switch, because I want 2 switches over here, not 1. There technically are 2, but this is the binding switch, so because it's spring-loaded, sorry, I just whacked the mic there, folks. There's a USB plug here. There's a trainer plug here. It looks like a PS2 connector, maybe. Then 4 AA's can go in there. I don't see any other plug. Oh, look, there's a plug for a presumably 1S pack. That's weird. So they must have an offering for that. I'm not aware of it, what it is. And of course, the power switch here. It's got a little bit of protection around it, an eyelet for using a lanyard. Of course, 2 position switches. That's a 3 position, that's a 3 position. So you could have like, man, that's 2 position, not 3. 2 position, 2 position, 2 position, 3 position. Throttle, rudder, ailerons and elevator. Got trim, up, down, exit. Okay, so pretty straightforward. It looks like this thing will store up to 30 models. It's got 6 channels and 3 types RC 2.4 gigahertz system, whatever that means. There is a manual in this box. Looks like they come with some springs, I'm assuming, so you can switch it from mode 2. to mode 1, something like that maybe. Maybe it's just springs in case you want to replace something after they wear out. And this one comes with the MSR66A, which is going to be pointed forward and glued down like that typically. But you can change that in the receiver setup. It does come with a manual. It's not all in Chinese, just the one half. One half is in Chinese, one half is in English. And if I recall, the English side actually has pretty good instructions, pretty straightforward. So they do talk about the different flight modes. So it's pretty cool. So obviously, if you buy something like this, you can get it as a kit. And we link to stuff like this down below. If you haven't already figured this out, anything that you see on our channel that we're reviewing, we essentially link to it. If you buy it from the links, you're generally going to be supporting us. There are very few products that we review that don't support us at all. When you buy from the links, generally speaking, that's how we help support the channel financially. So anyway, if you want to buy this, you can get it with this, and we will link to something like this. And if you don't find the exact configuration, Dynam is really good about having multiple different offerings that are very similar. Then you can just follow the BitGo Hobby link and you can go and get whatever item you want, and then you'll be helping to support us. But without further ado, at the top of the page, at the top of the description, you'll be able to see this plane. We'll link to this receiver transmitter combo, and then we'll link to the 2200 milliamp 4S 30C Gen 2 Smart Pack. And then obviously we have other links that will get you to chargers and things like this, and little voltage alarms and all that good jazz. And then of course the other planes that we've reviewed in the past. Maybe you watch this video and you're like, I've already got that plane, or I've got one like it, or I got the 1.5 meter from Horizon here not too long ago and I really like it. I'm not going to get another FW120, or excuse me, an FW 190, but I would really like to get that T28. Well, we'll have links to anything that we've done in the past. So that being said, I think what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and just get this thing in here. Now, those antennae are small, okay? So that doesn't really limit us much. But let's suppose we want to do right here so that we can really kind of give ourselves the best reach on the elevator and rudder, because the elevator and rudder are going to be the determining factor at this point. Okay, so we have E and we have R, okay? E and R. And it looks like on the side of this, there isn't a real clear marking yet. Just looking, just looking. If you had a Futaba style plug, it would tell you. Okay, but we're not keyed like that, so I have to just double check the manual. Do they even say? Okay, that's not good.
Signal.
Where?
Signal wire or something.
Where?
Signal wire is closest to the decal of the MR.
Signal wire is over here.
So towards the front.
Okay, so that makes it easier. So the elevator is here and the signal is the orange in this case. See? And then this is rudder. So rudder is going to be 2 down. And I don't concern myself with what channel is what. I don't care what number, whatever it is whatever it is. If it's labeled and you're using a mating, a matching setup from a manufacturer, you see how nice that's going to work? Plus, that incidentally will pull the wires out and away from harm's way, I think. So we'll try that. I like that spot. That's actually really better than I expected. Again, this plane just keeps dumbfounding me with how I don't want to call it just pure luck, because I feel like this plane was well thought out. And more so than past experience with Dynam, we have had a few planes that just really were just not fun to put together at all. And then we've had a few that have been challenging, but still not a big deal. Okay, so we're just going to do just a little slather, a little smear of hot glue. Thank you, camera crew. I can't really wait for you on that one, unfortunately. So we're just going to kind of hold that there for just a couple seconds. And the idea is to get it centered if you can. Anytime you got a stabilizer involved, it's nice to keep it in the center. technically, a lot of the literature doesn't say that you have to be in the center, but my experience is that when you have a stabilizer and it's not centered, 9 times out of 10, it ends up acting kind of wonky. So that being said, just try your best. Get it in the center if you can. We're gonna let that hot glue cool for just a second, and then we'll go in there and do a little bit more. We'll set this box up for you. Good packaging on both of these items. I definitely think it goes together about as easy a Dynam as you can do. So if this is signs of things to come, it is welcome. Welcome, big time. Okay, so be careful. There's a couple plugs on the side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and glue on the side here a little bit. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, don't you want to use like 3M tape or something that's going to have some shock resistance? Yeah, you can do that if you want. It's not a big deal. I've not had a big problem. You got to remember there's, it's foam. You know, there's going to be a lot of wiggling and the vibration from the prop and things like this. It shouldn't be of great consequence. I've never had a problem with a stabilizer that's over responsive because of a vibration coming through the frame of an airplane. Now, if this is a wooden plane or if this is a gas engine or something like that, you'd be a little bit more reluctant to do that. Okay, so that's in there real nice.
Do you want me to go grab batteries while the glue is cooling?
I'm gonna do a couple more spots of this glue, and I wanna show people what I'm doing, because if they're following along, I wanna be able to follow along. I mean, a lot of these steps, guys, it's not like rocket science. This is an airplane after all. But
so it's like aerospace engineering.
Yes, just like that. That's sounds like I'm applying for a job, trying to make it sound better than it really is. But no, I would say that's going to hold that in totally strong. I mean, I could probably hold the plane up by that, so that's perfect. And so without further ado, we're going to pause, grab some different batteries and things, and come right back. Okay, so we've got that thing mounted. So at this point, it might be wise to recheck the CG, but to be honest with you, I can't really do anything more than go a little bit forward. And when I say a little bit, that's, 3/8 of an inch, not gonna make a difference, okay? So if we can't get the CG to work out at this point, we'll have to do something different, okay? So I think this LED wire is probably not gonna make best sense tied up with the rest of this stuff. Okay, so we're just gonna untie that, get rid of this red twisty tie. Then all we need to do is just kind of separate these out. We're going to do cable management all in one fell swoop. I can tell, actually, what's what from right here. Again, another very happy accident, or engineering, whichever way you want to look at that. I'm going to go with happy accident.
Yep.
Okay, I want to go under. I think I want to go under. Just trying to untangle wires as I go. It's always nice for cable management reasons if you can untangle as you go. You'll find that it just really helps put everything together in a nice, clean package. Okay. Okay, so the LED wires are kind of tangly-dangly here, so I'm just gonna untangle those. All right, so now I see these wires are straddling what appears to be the LED line, so I'm just gonna pick one. I'm gonna unplug it, and then I'm gonna carry it carefully under, and then reattach, verifying that the colors are correct, which would be brown to black. And then the rest color for, brown to black and white to orange. Yep. Okay, so we're good there. So that's for the landing gear. And there's only 2 landing gear on this, so there's only gonna be 2 hooked up. Okay, so right here, so that's plugged in. I'm gonna probably go under just so I can tie that excess up to the excess on the other side as well. I think that's gonna give us a nice finished look. Not sure yet if that's gonna look better, but we'll test it and check. Yeah, I don't know. That's probably not gonna work. Okay, so we'll have to put that back under. Okay, so we've got the extra cable here. Then we have, what's this? This is throttle, I believe, because it kind of comes from down yonder where the power cord is. Yep, throttle. So throttle, of course, goes to the electronic speed control. My assumption, if you're building this plane, is that you kind of have a pretty good feel for planes in general. Dynams, may not be the absolute best beginner plane. I mean, they're a good beginner plane in terms of, you know, like first, second, third, fourth plane, whatever. But they are, plug-and flies in general are a little bit more complicated. And if you're following along a build, we can get you in the right, you know, in the ballpark. But it just takes a little bit more know-how, and you'll get there, especially if you watch this channel a lot. We'll help bring you up to speed. Okay, so this is the LEDs. You notice how everything is untangled from one another at this point. So that's important. Keep it that way as much as you can. There are going to be some limits, obviously. Okay, so I like kind of the way that looks right there. So I think this is the time we need to, you know what, let's just go twisty tie style. We've got them, we might as well use them. As opposed to getting something different. Okay, so we'll just twisty tie around this little bundle. Now be aware that twisty ties sometimes, you need to be a little bit careful because that wire that's inside of there can come free and short out equipment. So just be kind of careful the way you choose to use them. Okay, so we'll just go way up and way around. This is just plugging into any port. It's not controlled by the port, it's just simply stealing power. So like you could detach the signal line, it's not doing anything. Okay. At least if it does, I haven't fiddled with it enough to figure that it is doing anything. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not doing anything. Not in my past experience running these Dynam products. Okay, so we're at the point now where cable management is going to consist of just basically bundling this up and sticking it down into the cavity there. So I think I'm going to just try with maybe a zip tie or two would be ideal if we can get away with it. What do you think, camera crew?
Yeah, probably a zip tie or two. Or 6.
No, I don't think we're gonna need that many. This is gonna be, honestly guys, I can't believe how well this has gone. It's like, I keep saying that, and I know that can't be well received by some of you guys who think I give Dynam a hard time, because I do. This has just gone so much more like what we expect it to go.
Right.
That it's like, man, if this would have been the way all the rest of them gone, I don't know, it's just been a very different situation.
Yeah, exactly.
So very, very pleased with the way things are going on this plane. Let's hope it flies as good as it's gone together.
I know.
And I don't know why it wouldn't. All the signs point toward being a good plane. Obviously, we need to remember to hook up the elevator and rudder. That would tend to kind of ruin your flight performance.
I have a question about wiring.
Okay.
If somebody's watching this and they're just trying to get information and then use it on another build, if they had flaps that were taking up a channel, you could use a Y cable off of anything to plug in your lights to get power for your lights, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. Good question to ask.
Because you only have 6 channels available on that receiver.
You only have 6 channels, but it's not a channel that's being used.
Right.
You're literally just plugging it in to the power. And so the power can be stolen with a Y cable. A Y cable will get you access to it. Now you see this one's a big extra one here. A couple of different things you could do. You could just tuck this back through and just forget about it, or you could just leave it long. But since this is so easy to do, I mean, look how clean that turned out. It's just nice, simple, easy to get to if we need to change something at a future date, and yet we can still easily get to everything, okay? So now at this point, I would say the next thing we have to do is actually turn on the transmitter and start getting things set up there. Transmitter setup is not super, it's not super easy for me. Oh, one more trick. Here we go. Watch this. I'm gonna just take this hot glue gun, show them what I'm doing here. Can you even see from that side?
Yeah.
Can you? Really? Lick the finger and spread it over, which is gross. I know. It's not COVID approved. So that being said, what that does is, if you're gonna have one of those wires yank out, you're gonna have to have all 6 come out. Or you're gonna be pulling desperately hard on one cable. And that's one of the many ways you can secure your cables to your receiver that take very little time, and it's very easy to remove later should you decide to, change the configuration. But in flight, the chances of the G-force of the plane, doing a flip or a roll or whatever it is, or vibration, popping that out is like virtually nil.
Yeah.
Again, we're not rocking, this isn't a rocket ship, so this is an airplane. It's gonna be a generally smooth flying thing. That is a really clean and really easy setup. I'm super happy with the way that went. And I'm thinking maybe I shortchanged that one. I might need to do one more zip tie. Every time I look in there, I'm thinking, why does it look so slobby on that end? You see? See this right here?
Just so you
I
can
just want to maybe
one extra one.
Yeah, maybe one more zip tie, and I think we're going to be golden. Sorry, folks. Classic Brian Phillips flip flop there. Is that right?
You've never put one zip tie on anything in your life.
It's true. It's like you can only eat one Lay's. Is it Lay's?
No. Oh, is it?
It's Lay's, I think. You can only use one zip tie, Brian. Nope.
Nope, not
impossible. Okay, so now I can bend the whole lot of them, stuff it down in there, and then it goes down and away and kind of out of the way in a nice, neat manner. And those landing gear, the retract leads are always so chintzy. I don't understand why that is. And that's not just a Dynam thing, by the way. That's like an everybody thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we have that done, we can kind of scooch this out of the way, get the canopy out of the way. We'll take just a quick second, clean up, and come right back. Okay, so continuing in the radio setup, which is usually kind of a big setup and a plug and fly, we need to actually put the batteries in the transmitter. Yes, you can use a rechargeable pack in here, but we're just going to use the AA's because that's what we have right now.
We like to buy the super high quality ones.
These ones are like the Primero. Thunderbolt Magnum heavy duty 3 milliamp hour. Just kidding. They're actually probably less.
Probably.
Okay.
I can see that.
Less resolution on the screen. Whoa. That's fancy. Okay. There's no throttle hold switch over here, so we'll have to see how that works. Looks like kind of slow update on the display there. So I can see there's a pretty big difference between the 6C and the 8C. Okay, so going into the menu, model parameter, up and down, in and out. So it's got like an arrow sort of thing on there and an arrow sort of thing on there. Enter, exit. Okay. So let's just see what else we got. All right, so good enough for me. So at this point, I'm gonna just, it says Gavin 6C. Okay, so we're just gonna shut that off. This is the battery we've got in there. We already placed it all the way forward, 2200 4S. There's a bind button on this. I wanna have the plane level. Make sure that the landing gear are free so that if they were to try to go out, they wouldn't damage themselves. And then you see how my hand is blocking the prop? If that starts, it's gonna have nowhere to go, but it will probably catch the ESC on fire. So just be aware, the safest thing to do is to not have the prop on, but we're doing a build series here and we want you guys to see how to do it. So safety first. See the red flashing light there, folks? Okay, so that's plugged in nicely. Okay, so we're gonna press this bind button. Oh, it might already be bound. Turning on the transmitter, hand in a safe spot. We're not seeing any activity. Throttle up, throttle down, no wake up. So we're gonna shut this off. We're gonna pull this toward ourselves, turn it on. I don't see any binding happening. So we're gonna turn that off. There's a bind button on here. I'm gonna attempt to press this. Okay, now it's in bind. It goes to a slow flash. Pull this trigger towards yourself. Turn it on. The flashing green turns. That's why you keep that in a safe spot. And look at this. Red is right returning, flashing light, and solid green. Very cool. First thing I'm gonna test is throttle, which should be on. And it is armed. It's going the right direction. That's always helpful. I go for a throttle cut, but there isn't one, so we'll see about that here in a few minutes. For now, we're just gonna be extra careful. Elevator is hooked up on the right side. Ailerons are actually hooked up correctly. Rudder is backward. So first thing we need to do is, now that we have everything hooked up, we know that all that's secure inside, so we can go ahead and drop this lid on. Actually, now that we've kind of given this glue some time to set up, I want to just peel that off. That was just kind of holding this down tight when it was first freshly glued. Okay, so everything fits nice and tight. Boy, that is about as smooth as we've ever had. So now what I'm gonna do is move this plane, being mindful that if I bump the throttle, I'm gonna get cut. Oh, one gear opened. Okay, so let's see if we can figure out, is that bound? Okay, can't tell yet. Okay, so that's wrong. That's the flight modes. That's not doing anything. There we go. Okay, so it was stuck on something. It's getting caught on the foam or something. So I'm just gonna try to bend that a little teeny bit. Getting caught on something. I'm not sure what we're getting caught on yet. It could be this cover. I might try to tighten that screw on the far side, or the side toward the tail of the aircraft. It might be that it's not quite lined up perfectly. Mm-hmm. And I can probably tighten this down here. Ooh, yeah, that doesn't let you tighten it any more than it already is. So that means I'm going to be bending. So I'm going to support this from below. I got my hand on the top side there. Which side is it caught on? It definitely caught on one of these sides. So I'm just going to open this up with my finger. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. So it was just caught on, it was just catching on this foam right here, okay? So probably in the process of gluing it in, we must have pushed it. You can see it's seating down nicely too. Very cool. Okay, so now we have to get the rudder and elevator hooked up. So we know that this is centered because we have no trim in there and everything is in its neutral state.
And it's not being stabilized, right?
Nope. Well, no, because the ailerons would be attempting to level the aircraft.
Correct. Okay, yep, right.
So if the ailerons were trying to rotate the plane over to the level condition, then we would know that we're in auto leveling. So I'm grabbing something with like a wide head on it so I can hang on to this wire and then I can spin this, okay? Oh, it's spinning super easy too. Look at this. Man, just like every aspect of this plane has been the easiest. I don't get it
I'm
either.
so confused.
It's like I'm still waiting for these huge problems that we've had in the past, and we're not having any of them. We're just having only success.
Gotta go a long way.
I know, that makes me a little bit nervous. Now, you've got almost so much that you could do a Z-bend in there. Because look how far we have to go. Mm-hmm. We have to go so far. But I think we're gonna make it. I think it's gonna be fine.
Better in than out.
Mm-hmm. If you pull out at the wrong time, you won't get the job done. Okay, I just need to protect this throttle because I don't know that there's really a throttle cut switch that's gonna be available. Okay, so holding tight. I'm making sure to support the back here so I don't break these tabs off, okay? So far, so good. Getting real close now. Probably a couple, 3 more turns maybe. Maybe a little bit more. We're getting super close, folks. Look at that. Show the people at home. Maybe one more. Make sure it's square, so when you let go, it's lined up. Yeah, that's just really good. Elevator already looks nice and neutral. Okay, so let's look from this side here and just check that. Looks good. Let's operate it. Okay, so it's okay that it came out because I haven't snapped it on yet. Okay, so I'm going to snap it on now. The best thing you can do is line this up first. Let's see, because they're going to try to break that head off like it always likes to. See that? You got to get that thing lined up. Like, really lined up. Gosh, there's just like no way you're going to feed that thing through because, do you see what I'm talking about, camera crew?
Yeah, I'm trying to show them.
It's almost like we need to kind of take one of our dinky screwdrivers and kind of work it through there first.
So it's not pushing so hard.
Yeah.
You're going on the outside hole?
Yeah, for now I am. Oh, that's way too big. No, it's gonna go. It's gonna go. Oh, this is where you get yourself in trouble, guys. Oh, there it goes. It's in. It's in just fine. Okay, now we test again. Yes, yes.
Got a pretty good amount of
Throw for being in the outside hole, okay? So now on the rudder.
Goodness.
We want to make sure this thing is squared too, and it's kind of come out of square pretty bad. So we are going to we'll just grab our tools this time. It actually came with one, but we just got done putting those downstairs, getting ready to put away. I think it was about 1 millimeter. Tell you in just a second. 0.9 millimeters. Oh, yeah, that's way too small. Maybe it's 1.5.
Yeah, because it was just, I think you went up like a half a step
Yep.
to the 2.
So I'm loosening this, and then I'm just going to straighten that up so that it's square with the rudder. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so see, pretty cool. So that was a 1.5 millimeter. Is that it right there? So I evidently didn't grab it when I grabbed all the rest of the stuff, huh? Oh no, that was what I just grabbed to use to try to push this thing through on the other side. So I don't know if that's the right size. Probably is still. Okay, so you have to support this when you're doing this. This one got kind of foobarred a little bit.
Those don't have the little like gas tube keepers on them either.
No, but you could add that pretty easy. Yeah, we have a long ways to go. Holy crappers. We gotta go like a ½ inch. Ow. That's what the plane's thinking too. Yeah, we gotta go another ½ inch. Nope. Telling you, every second that you spend doing this will be rewarded when you take it up in the air. In the terms of the amount of headaches you have once you're up in the air. There's a lot of slop on that too, though. Boy, that is, I think we might have it. What do you think?
Looks
before I snap
close.
it? I think it's gonna
We
get,
need to go a tiny bit more towards the pantry.
yeah, maybe
Just a
maybe
little bit.
maybe one half of a turn, you think?
I bet it's gonna be a whole turn.
Okay, we'll go one whole turn if that's what you think. Oh, dang it.
I am the expert here, you know. I've done this so many times.
That looks pretty good. I can live with that. Okay, so now, look how bad this one looks.
Yeah.
This is by far the worst part of this plane. And to be honest with you guys, if that's the worst part, we've done so much better than
take
average.
it.
I will absolutely take it, yeah. I mean, it's kind of an important, critical component. And, you know, for an extra 30 cents, you could probably have twice as good a connection. Yeah. Did that head just break off?
I think it's going to.
No,
Yeah.
it didn't
Oh,
break
it didn't.
off. We're like really, really lucky still. it's just so out of alignment that, hey, look at this. I have these super dinky ones, 0.7 millimeters. Look at this, watch this. I could probably take that and just make sure I have that hole cleared, which I do. Oh man, that is just so bendy. I'm just not seeing that wanting to come over the right direction because of the bend in it, the inherent bend in there. Come on, you turd lover. Get in there. I'm not sure, like, if I could do anything different. It's on.
Ooh, did you get it?
Okay. It's on there, guys. It's on there, and it's on there okay, too. All right? And it's, like, really free, too. What the heck is going on with this build? It's just so strange to have so many things go smooth. Was that 1.5 millimeters? Is that what we determined for this?
Yes.
Because now that we have this on here, I'm just going to make it just a really small minor tweak, furthermore than what we had before. Yeah, that's really well lined up if you want to show them from the end there. I'm loving it. It looks really good. Look at that, how nice and consistent that is. Guys, this has got to be the best so far, by far. Okay, so now what we need to do is get it on its wheels. See, it's got a strong wing too. That's also good. Something you just don't see a lot of. On the Dynam planes, the wings tend to be a little bit floppy, almost like bird style floppy. And I think what I'm gonna do at this point, I'm gonna keep that handy, but I just wanna do a quick test of the throttle. Why'd you move over there?
Oh, I thought you were going to do control surfaces.
It's actually pretty well balanced. Pretty good amount of power. Okay, so aileron left, aileron right, elevator up, elevator down, rudder left and right needs to be flipped. So if you want to stay where you are, I'll rotate the plane around. And so really the only surface that needs to be rotated is this. Okay, so that's backwards. So I'm going to go to enter, model parameter. Let's go down to channel, model set, model parameter, reverse set. Channel 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it was this one. Haha, so cool. Roll left, roll right, elevator up, elevator down, roll left, or yaw left, yaw left, yaw left, yaw right. That is really good. Super happy with that. Okay, so let's hit exit and go back. Okay, so let's exit there. Let's go down to channel monitor and see what we've got in there. So it just shows you the percentages of the channels. Looks pretty good. I'm not gonna, of course, hit the model set, system set. Let's go to system set, language, calibration, stick mode 2, key volume, key tone, brightness. Well, that's kind of nice. 6 is default. That's helpful. If it's colder days, you can adjust your contrast. Brightness off, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Battery type, about, okay. So the different types of batteries, you can say 4 batteries or you can say something else. Model set. Okay, so we can name this. If we go in and we can scroll in F hit enter. You hit down to move. So FW, and we'll come right back when we're done with this. Okay, so we got FW 190 dialed in. Type is airplane, function set. Let's see what that is. Throttle hold is SA. Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's kind of a weird place. I would rather have it SE. So I'm just gonna put it to SE, except SE is where the gear are located right now. So how is that gonna work?
Can you switch the gear to SA?
Yeah, I can. That's what I'm gonna have to do. ACR fly, SA. I don't know what SCR stands for. I mean ARC. Automatic control, something. Trainer switch, mode. Mode is SB currently. That's mode. Except I want mode to be somewhere else. I want this to be gear. That'd be SB. Elevator, dual rates, gear. SE is where they have it set. I want to change that to SB because there's no flap, so I want my gear here. And we won't be able to control the mode. The mode is going to have to be SD. Did you hear that? It made a... See that? Show the people. So we can have one that's like stabilizer on, one auto leveling. Okay, so that's good. But that's not a 3-position switch. This is a 3-position switch. See, that's my gear trying to function, which is nice that they're not very strong because it didn't just collapse itself. So SA.
Gear on SA?
Maybe. Yeah, I might have to make... Yeah, but it's so hard for me to get to that switch. I'm so not used to it. So really the gear need to be up here. That's just the way it's going to have to be. Trainer switch is SC. SC, that's fine. I don't care about that because we're not going to use that. Mode is SD. Well, actually, we could do SA because I can get to that. Because I'll be more prone to do that than to let go of this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, then aileron dual rates. We're not going to mess with those, are we? I guess to be closest to what we're used to, that'd be like SE is the brake. Yeah, I guess that'd be SE if we we're going to do it. But really, I only have one switch, so I would say no. Because what do we use an SD for?
Well, nothing, because your throttle cut should be SE, right?
Well, throttle cut is SE. So this is going to be landing gear currently, but that really, is this what we ended up doing landing gear for?
No.
Mode. We're going to have to do SB if we want to have all the different modes. Well, that's fine. Let's just play with it a little bit. We'll see what we got. Then, I don't know, trainer set, fail safe, timer 1, timer 2. You can set timers, but they're based on where the throttle, if the throttle is on or not. Type. You can do up timer, down timer, so you can count up or you can count down. I would typically do a count down. I would say the control switch would be throttle, so once throttle gets up to a certain, the threshold position would be, or the throttle position would be 90. Of course, that's on. Throttle cut, hypothetically, should be on. You'll notice it's not doing anything now. So that's something to get used to and use. Okay, timer. Did they say how long to put the timer? Can you just double check by where that battery indicator is? Why don't I set the timer for 5 and 0 seconds?
Yeah, no timer
Okay.
info.
Okay, so careful you don't trip on the chair there. So basically you've got all this stuff set for the timer. Let's exit there. Type is airplane, function set. I don't know what ACR stands for. Is that their... See if you can see ACR on there. Because I thought ACR could be...
Acro something?
Yeah, that could be. Look at this. There's a spring for screw adjustment in here. So if you want more retention on the sticks, that's really nice that you can get to that. You have to open it up to do that too.
Here's flight mode. This says flight mode, gyro off, normal, auto recovery, and aerobatic.
Yeah, I know, but this is on the transmitter, not on the receiver. Are we using SD for anything? We can just try it real quick. SA is gear. Nope, that's the mode. Yeah, that'd be like, possibly like recovery. Okay, so when I turn this mode on, it's trying to level the plane. See? Trying to find the quickest route to level. And when I turn that off, then that stops. But it's totally off. Now, we might have to give throttle for it to wake up if it's anything like other stabilizers. Okay, so that should activate it, but it's not on at all. Okay, so throttle cuts on and tested. Especially when you're dealing with a new transmitter, you gotta be careful to check that. Nothing. So I'm just gonna turn that back to off. Throttle hold. What did I just change? Dang it. Trainer switch is SC, that's okay. Because that doesn't do me any good. Mode is SA. If I change that to SB, then let's see what happens. That should give me 3 positions, but now I have to go up and change gear. Whoops, SD. I want it to be SB. So I'm gonna change gear to SA. Okay, so now let's try this. Exiting out. Stabilizer's on. So this is where you check the correction. Lifting the wing, it's correcting the wrong direction, and the right direction. So the elevator axis is right. The rudder's going the wrong way, and the ailerons are going the wrong way. That's a pretty big deal. So now I have to figure out how I can set that up. The other option is I could attach it to another transmitter and then set it up that way. So let's see how to do this. Maybe we should be able to do it here. Oh, there we go. See this? Switch set, gyro off. Okay, so this is normal. So I want to, whoops. See, there's your 3 settings. So I want to change this to normal so that my back switch is, okay, normal, normal, okay. So annoying.
Flip the switch.
Oh, true. Thank you, camera crew. Gyro off. And then the auto recovery. Okay, auto recovery, gyro off, and normal. So now that we know that, I can actually switch it back if I wanted. So I could have the gear over here, and then I could have the stabilizer on and off.
But that's your only 3-position switch.
I don't need 3 positions. If I switch the mode to 2 positions, now that I know I can change that, that's good.
Oh, okay.
So then also, okay, so now we need to go down to roll gain, direction, there you go. So roll is backward, so we're gonna change that by pressing up. Now, how do I know it's wrong? Well, now it should be right. When I lift this wing, it should go up also. It does, and down and up, okay? Now watch the elevator. You have to get probably on this side. When I go up, watch what happens. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up. It's subtle, but you can see it here in person. It goes down, it goes up, it goes down. Now watch the rudder. When I pivot it toward the sink, it should point toward the sink with this. Nope, it's going the wrong way. So what that would do is it would induce a yaw. So as soon as the plane gets blown by the wind, it's gonna wanna make it go even more until it crashes. Or I intercede. So let's exit and let's go to yaw. Yaw. And let's switch to reverse. Okay, exit. And that's where you set your gains too. Okay, so now we're gonna look, when I go toward the sink, it should point toward the sink. Yep, and toward me, toward the sink, toward me, toward the ceiling, toward the ground, toward the ceiling, toward the ground, toward the ceiling, toward the ground. Okay, now we verify our control surfaces go in the correct direction still. Aileron roll left, roll right, elevator up, elevator down, yaw left, yaw right. This thing is ready to fly, believe it or not. This is this is absolutely the easiest, most straightforward setup we have done, with the exception of, and I should use different terminology because straightforward is misleading. What I mean is this was the easiest to build, the most tight fitting, the best fit and finish of any Dynam plane we've done to date. And that does probably include the PT-17 because the cowl on that PT-17 was super garbagey fit. But it's still a really good plane, actually. One of my favorite Dynams. Now, that being said, these guns get right in the way of picking this plane up. You see where my hand is?
Yep.
I always pick up a plane like this. That's gonna be a pain. And then look where my fingers hit. Right in the openings. Okay, so that's gonna be a little annoying. The good news is, this has a strong wing. The bad news is you pick up into the void. That happens a lot with warbirds, okay? So not a lot you can do about this. This thing looks great. I think it's gonna fly great. We're about to find out. Obviously there's gonna be some gain adjustments that we need to make after the maiden flight. But so far this 6C, while being very simple, it's doing all the things I demand, which are throttle cut, mode for changing modes. Obviously this one doesn't have flaps, so we don't have to challenge mode or flaps. Okay, so that 6th channel is available for that. Also, real quick, we didn't talk about this very long. Let's just take a quick look. If you need to program the ESC for any reason, this little thing is included. That's one of the things we love about the Dynams. We're just gonna basically make it so you can pause. You'd pause now if you wanna look it over. Same thing with the gyro setup. You could pause if you want, or if you want to look at the whole manual as a whole, you can just look at that. Okay, so we'll just give that back to the camera crew. And then of course the manual for the 6-channel radio, actually quite good in English so far. Color pictures, I didn't expect that. It did not come with a 2mm Allen wrench was not included, but it did include a 1.5mm, which is a little bit strange. I don't know why they include the one but not the other. In terms of weight, it feels very light on its feet. I can't wait to fly it. And you guys have already seen the flight, but we haven't, so I'm just estimating. Based on all the different circumstances that we have in front of us, I think this thing is gonna be by far the best Dynam that we've flown. So if you wanna buy one, this one would come highly recommended. Even if I crashed it or I ran into a tree or something like that, went wrong, I would say this one is definitely the type of plane that you'd wanna get into, okay? It's a well-built plane, it fits nicely, all the fit and finish was great. We didn't have one problem building this thing, except for one of the clevises was kind of hard to line up. And to be honest with you, are you kidding me? We had problems with all the clevises on the previous planes put together, every single one of them. So this plane is definitely something that they put their heart and effort into. So I would say probably a good one. You might actually seriously consider this one. Plus it's quite a bit cheaper than the 1.5 that we reviewed recently. That being said, that plane is awesome. And it's also gonna cost you about 3 times what this thing will. Now that being said, it is twice the plane, I would say, at least. You get into a 1.5 meter and you literally have a plane that's almost twice the size. So this is 1.27 meters. That is 1.5. That runs on 6S, $165 battery. You know, I don't even know if this plane, you know, it's a little bit more than the battery. So just to give it some relationship there. This plane is beautiful. That plane is much more beautiful. This plane is very light. It's gonna be a lot easier to transport with the exception of the fact that those wings come off. So just a couple, I know you guys are gonna ask the question. I don't really mean to pit these against each other because they're really not even in the same class. Let's just be real. That being said, this has got to have been, and I've said it probably 20 times in this build, This has got to be the best Dynam we've built so far.
Without question.
Without question.
Yes.
And this includes the Turbojet 550 that I built probably as my second or third plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5.5 years ago. And
Yeah.
that was an awesome plane. And I put my heart and soul into that thing, and I did make it very nice, but it took a ton of effort.
Yep.
This plane, however, has been quite easy. And by the way, if you go with this transmitter setup, it's quite economical too. I would still highly encourage you, if you're going to be flying any Spectrum models, to maybe think about doing the NX6, NX8. The Smart Packs are awesome. They are bulletproof. They're not actually bulletproof. You can shoot them and they'll burn, just like any other pack, but they are bulletproof in their performance. So I would highly recommend that you invest in them. That being said, if you get the Dynam stuff, they're good too. We haven't had a problem with them yet, but they're just a conventional battery. And that being said, you do have to keep your eye on them, discharge them when you're not using them if you want them to have a decent life. What other thoughts, camera crew?
I'm just still in shock.
Yes. Me too.
I don't know what else to say.
All right, check the links in the description below. You guys are great. We are getting really close, dangerously close to 100,000 subscribers. And we thank all of you for being a small part of that. And if you can accept our thanks, if you want to help us out, the same ways that have always been true, watch the videos, like and subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Definitely check the description. We really desperately try to make sure that you guys know where to buy these planes, when you want to buy them. If you don't like this plane, you like something else, definitely ask us questions. We try to be really good about replying, and it's getting a little bit harder as there's a larger base of subscribers. But the thing is, we're still keeping up week to week. We're trying to get caught up within a couple of days if we can. And so if you guys keep coming back, we'll keep doing these. So thanks for watching.